Hard to say happy Saturday when you have to start off the show with another in memoriam to Arlene Sorkin. Listen, you guys know how I feel about Batman the animated series. I had very little use for it, but on a professional and a personal level, the people who are fans of that show and on a human level have had two big hits to them this year with Kevin Conroy and now the woman who, in my opinion, helped create Harley Quinn. A lot of people don't realize that Harley Quinn was not a comic book character um, to start out with. She was created for a cartoon. You know, she was created for a cartoon, and she crossed over into the comic books and became a popular character from that point on. But Arlene Sorkin was the original voice. She was part of the original development of that character. So even if you never watched the animated show, you know who Harley Quinn is. And the beginning, the infant stage of that character was voiced by our Arlene Sorkin, who passed away today, causes unknown, at age 67. Also, Bob Barker, 99 years old, approaching his 100th birthday. Bob Barker's going to be missed. I grew up Bob Barker, Price is Right. Things I didn't get a chance to upload a thumbnail with him in it. Bob Barker, on sick days home from school or doing something like that, we on TV, we'd catch Bob Barker. He's going to be missed. He's going to be mourned. I'm pretty. My condolences goes out to his family. But when this week has included someone at the age of 67 dying and another person in Bray Wyatt at 36 passing away, at least with Terry Funk and Bob Barker, they got to live lives. They had careers that lasted 5 decades plus, and Bob Barker's even more. I mean, he literally predates TVs in everyone's houses. They got to see grandchildren and great grandchildren, I think, in both their cases. Arlene Sorkin was 67. That's too young to be gone. I don't know what the cause of death was because this was just recent in the last maybe few hours or so. And obviously, we've had the two wrestlers that passed away on back-to-back days with Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk. And I always say, entering in and going to these shows, that do not take for granted just being in a decent health. You don't even be in great health, just being in a decent health, both mentally and physically, enough to be able to not be memorialized, before it's time. Now, in Bob Barker's case, listen, hey, you tell me I'm going to get a century on this planet and the things that I'll see in that century, I'll take that. Bray Wyatt, 36 years old, Arlene Sorkin, 67 years old. These are people who, by today's living standards, if healthy, could live, as long as Bob Barker could. So rest in peace this has been a tough week. All right, let me say hi. But I promise you guys that we're going to try to I can't be in the industry that I'm in, both online and and not recognize some of these things that have happened. Huge wrestling fan, so there's no way I could get past that. That affected me personally. And then in the comic book industry, and in a character like Harley Quinn, who I'm literally looking at covers with her on it, was this person who passed away today is literally part of that person's development. Even the voices that followed her, Arlene Sorkin dictated, not dictated personally, but they followed her, and mimicked a lot of what she did. So, all right. So I'm going to go through the chat real quick, and then we're going to start hitting our topics rapid fire. Hollywood Reporter did it again. I do my best. It's like the mafia. I try to stay away from certain topics because I am committed to talking about things and spending this time that make me happy. But the Hollywood Reporter is not on board with that, and they put out another my opinion, another stupid ass article, which is what they do. And I think this one is sorely misrepresenting all sorts of fandom. So as soon as I say hi to the chat, we're going to jump into that. Then I'll bring in Brad because I know he has an opinion on that. And we're going to talk happy stuff until we have to talk about the strike, which officially has screwed me out of a 2023 release of Dune, but we'll talk about that later. Oh, also, guys, I did it. I went ahead and I set up the Patreon. Now I just got it up, set up. I got all the stuff, there. We are going to. I am going to add stuff to it. I just got the bare bones of it today. You can donate. Is one tier. It's a $5 tier. What that's going to include, and it's in the Patreon description, is we're going to be doing watch alongs. I wanted to try to have it ready for tomorrow. Um, for All In, but I'm not going to get a chance. I'm barely going to get a chance to watch All In, but I think I'm going to have it in place for All Out, which is next Saturday, I believe, and then other wrestling pay per views. I'm going to do it within private links in there so that we can all watch these things together. Also, I can do it the Patreon without, getting hit by copyrights. We can just pick movies and watch them along with each other's. Plus, I'll have streams where I bring you guys on, kind of like we do with Film Junkie when he brings me on as a part of his Patreon stream, and then stuff like every now and then we get an abundance of things like this. T-shirts, movie promos, all kinds of stuff. After the movie promo is over, you guys are going to be the first that'll get those type of things from us, like movie posters and stuff like that. We'll have to work out the shipping because the post office that does us around here. Oh, it's been a nightmare. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to get this stuff to you. But we got tons of T-shirts. We have tons of mini posters and stuff. A lot of that stuff gets thrown away. Even though it's cool stuff, I only have so much room. So if you're a patron, I'm going to be getting that kind of stuff to you. When we get digital passes to things like that, like, we got some for the Equalizer, but they're not a lot. But a lot of times, like for certain movies, when they're really, really behind it, they'll give us Fandango passes and codes. Those are going to be on the Patreons, things like that. So, yeah, I'm going to use a Patreon to do a lot of stuff that I would get in trouble doing on YouTube because of copyright issues. Now, I know I can do certain things, but I also have partnerships with these studios to the point where I don't want to undercut their promotion by doing public stuff on YouTube. Patreon allow me to do it privately and without having to censor myself. So join the Patreon if you can. There you go. Also, pinned to the top of the link is or the top of the stream is our donation link. Like I said, I might just start calling it the Frat Fund. Depending on what we use it on, or like I said, the shipping fund, whatever we need to keep things going, outside of what I already put in, anything helps. $1, it doesn't matter. Just you watching and clicking like and subscribe, especially on shows like this where we are not being carried by somebody got me. Either I have somebody who joined or somebody who donated. Who is it? All right, Lane Deli. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Thank you for joining. Okay, so let me go ahead and say hi. I got some other messages that some unconfirmed stuff. I know some of you guys have probably heard things, but I'm not going to address that particular issue because I haven't confirmed anything yet. So, hey William, I just rewatched the Patriots game and Clear and Present Danger. Clearly the best Jack Ryan movies. Ooh. That may be a hot take. Hal Jordan, happy Saturday, everyone. Are the DC fans here? Yeah, we're gonna address that. That article pissed me off, man. That article pissed me off. But yeah. Hi, Rhea. Hey, Rhea, when you're out here, thank you for taking care of Brad's earphones. That way, I'll have an extra set here now because the ones I was supposed to send him are sitting at the house. So when you come out to Vegas, I'm gonna hook you up with Sister Kim's. How you doing, Daniel Martin? What's going on? All right, let's see. Yeah, man. This week is damn. And all you guys, remember I said a couple of notes. Oh, 2 celebrities have died. Where's number 3? Stop it with that. We've had more than enough this week, and 3 was obviously not the magic number. Let's knock that nonsense off. How you doing, Anthony Beltray? What's going on? Chappie, how you doing? Okay, how old are you? Because when I was a little baby, he had gray hair, but you know what? Hey, you know what? Because I just remember him. Also, Arlene Sorkin, interesting thing. Okay, so when I was a kid, during the summertime, like I always tell you guys, our family, even though we could have multiple TVs, they made it a point to have a family TV. They want us when we were at a certain age, they wanted us watching TV together. So we all had to watch shows that we wouldn't have normally watched. I grew up with my mom and my sister because I was outvoted watching Days of Our Lives, and I actually started liking it. I'm not going to, be ashamed of that. Arlene Sorkin played a character named Calliope. She was a wacky character on Days of Our Lives. That's where I first laid eyes on her, long before any of this. She was a girlfriend of a guy named Eugene. I forgot his last name. The key thing about that is the person who played Eugene, I believe, was John Delancey, who years later would become Q. So, small world. If you live long enough, you'll get to see some of these people. Fortunately, to see some of these people play very drastically different roles in your life. So once again, rest in peace. All right, yeah. Same here. That's all I knew Bob Barker was. I mean, I didn't know he did anything else, but he had a very long career. Like I said, he predated TVs and houses. I believe Bob Barker started out on radio. Yeah, my condolences to his family. It's just wow. William, I didn't grow up with Terry Funk. Can you explain how great of a wrestler he was? Okay, Terry Funk literally created a category of wrestling, in my opinion. And other wrestling fans will disagree with this to a certain point. I believe that Terry Funk was the pioneer of hardcore wrestling. I don't think there is an ECW without Terry Funk. I don't think there's a lot of people who got their bones in ECW and wrestled the type of style that Terry Funk wrestled his entire career, without Terry Funk wrestling. He wrestled a hardcore style. A lot of foreign wrestlers, a lot of wrestlers in Japan, they wrestle a strong style. A lot of that was originated by Terry Funk. He was just a workman's wrestler. And a lot of people, he trained a lot of people. A lot of people that are wrestling today trained under Terry Funk. If you know who Mick Foley is literally like a disciple of Terry Funk. I mean, his persona, his Cactus Jack, his Mankind, a lot of his persona was based on his time with Terry Funk. And it was just, I mean, he literally created a category in wrestling that is still part of wrestling today. And there's a lot of guys who I truly believe who legit would not have careers without the influence that Terry Funk had on the sport. So that's how important. Other people will tell you differently. Other people will give you different varying degrees of what Terry Funk meant to them and what they think. That's what after 40 years of watching, that's what Terry Funk meant to me as a little kid, going all the way up. So his death hit. I mean, we knew he was ill for a while. Okay, so I am looking at certain websites, and yes, that it appears that for those of you who are in our internet community, you don't hear me ever bring up this person's name. You never hear me bring up the circles that he runs in's name. Not because I have anything against Sil Abdul or any of those guys. I just don't get involved in what looked like a conflict before I even got on YouTube. So nothing against those guys, nothing against them. And I know there's certain people who on our side of the ledger who have issues with these guys. I never got involved in that stuff. They did their thing, they had their following, and I left it at that. I respect people who get on here and do their platform. But Mikey Sutton was a big part of that community. One way or another. Yeah, he was a scooper. He had scoops. He had connections and things like that. A lot of you guys, in fact, most of you guys I can see in the chat, you know who I'm talking about. Apparently, just before I got on the air, literally 29 seconds, because Robert, I realized it was legitimate now because I see Robert Meyer Burnett, who we've had on this show, who's as legitimate as they come. He acknowledged it. So I had never met Mikey Sutton. I had never been on the screen with Mikey Sutton. I had never had any issues with any of these guys. I still don't. We just, our policy here. We don't get involved in that. But that's how I found out about a lot of that, is through that whole scooper war and all that. But apparently he has passed away literally right before the show. Once again, tough week. Obviously, he's not a celebrity status of Bob Barker, Terry Funk, Bray Wyatt, Arlene Sorkin, but his passing is still going to get acknowledged on this show on the human level. My condolences go out to his family, go out to his friends, go out to his followers, regardless of what you think about any internet personality, any public personality, anybody's anything. On a human level, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's brother. In some cases, that's somebody's father, that's somebody's grandfather. On a human level, my condolences goes out to Mikey Sutton, um, Sil Nation, Skywalker, Zod. Like I said, I don't interact with those guys on a regular basis. We live in our own worlds, and I have respect for what they do, and I hope they have respect for what I do. But I know those are people that are close to him, and when you lose a friend, you're hurting. And I say this again when we're sniping and we're doing stupid stuff and we're putting people in our thumbnails, or and we're just going to war and getting our arteries all up about what somebody said on a YouTube channel or a Twitter channel. This is supposed to be an outlet for fun, because you have constant and daily reminders of the real world around you. And people passing prematurely is part of that. So when you're on these formats, try to have fun. I don't know if there's anything on YouTube or Twitter that I'm going to war over. I've been to a war, a real one, and it's not that. This is not that serious. So my condolences to everybody. My condolences go to Bray Wyatt. My condolences go to Bob Barker, Harry Funk, and Mikey Sutton, and Arlene Sorkin. And everybody out there who's watching this show, if you lost somebody this week, just because they're not on TV, YouTube, or radio, they're not any less important. I just don't know who they are. My condolences to them as well. All right, so yeah. I am yeah. Like I said, not the most religious guy in the world, although I should be. And like I said, this channel, I never had a beef with him, but even if I did, on a human level, I hope, and it sucks that it would take somebody passing away like this in that community, that we realize that these things are I'm using YouTube as much as I can, the same way I use the Sci-Fi Center and the people I surround myself with, both in real life and online. Find happiness. Just be happy. Have fun. We do nothing is guaranteed. Just have fun with this stuff, because like I said, my condolences. And that I'm still processing that. And the same way, because you're just getting hit one after another with the death, and people on different ends of the spectrum, young, all the way up to 99. It's like, wow, man. Tough week. Yeah, trying to move up in the world. I'm trying to class up the joint. I was looking at my streams a couple from last year, when I first started, and holy cow. Oh my goodness. I always rewatch my streams because I want to try to improve. We're watching the old streams before I had the Amazon. I was still using the computer's microphone. That I didn't have lights. I mean, I didn't have these microphones. I didn't have a variety. I had a crappy camera, and I'm like, oh wow, what a difference a year makes. And here we are. Okay, all right. Let's All right, no, OnlyFans. Yeah, no, people will probably pay to not see me on OnlyFans. I can threaten you that I will go on OnlyFans, and that will probably raise money, but we don't need the money that bad. Sorry, thank you. Brad is on the stream. Brad is here. Damn, come on. There we go. Brad is on the stream. I'm gonna read this article. I gotta get it with a bunch of stuff right before we went on the air. But Brad is here. In fact, you know what? Let's Nah, I'm not gonna burn them. We're just gonna go over it. So, all right, including the lack of consistency and not delivering an ending to an initial DCR, the audience to invest with. Oh, Let me read this because this is going to lead right into our article, and then I'm going to bring Brad in, and I'm going to let Brad go with it. Were you really not a fan of the recent TJH article from Richard Newby? I thought it raised some. Is that who? Hold on. Let me bring up. I got so much stuff on my thing. Hold on. Let's see. No, I wasn't. Okay. Let me read it, and there's certain factors of it that are valid, but there's certain those parts of it, the nuts and bolts of it, right there, are probably. But I don't like the way this article is framed, and I'm gonna go ahead and read it. And I think it's. Let me go ahead and read it, and that way I'm not talking about something that you guys don't know about. So for those of you who haven't read this article, we're done with the memorials. Let's go ahead and read this. All right, let's go ahead and present. Share screen, and here we go. The article by Richard Newey. Where have all the DC fans gone? After a string of bombs with a reboot on the horizon, Warner Brothers has to do more to make its fans believe that a man can fly. It has to make them believe this time there's willingness to see that flight to its destination. That part I agree with. But the part, before I get into it, guys, this headline is just like the DC. We're here. We're here. Who? That's a bad start. Who is he talking about? But let's go on, because like I said, I think I'm angrier about the headline. Because to be honest with you, when you have a headline like that, most people are not going to be me. Most people are not going to read the article, but I'm going to. It's been more than a decade since Man of Steel ushered in the DCEU. In 10 years this very week since Ben Affleck was announced to play Batman in Zack Snyder's cinematic saga. We all know the turmoil and endeavor it ultimately resulted in, and seemingly ceaseless restructuring the DC had followed partially as a result. But for now, let's journey back to the summer of 2013. A simpler, but undeniably passionate age. The noise from comic book movies fans circling the newly minted DC Extended Universe was near deafening that summer. Everyone had opinions, both of Man of Steel, with his controversial third act in which Superman killed Zod, and the casting of Affleck, who still hadn't quite come clean off the spandex stench of 2003's Daredevil, was somehow supposed to measure up to Christian Bale's beloved Dark Knight. The DCU was shiny and new, and whether reactions were positive or negative, everyone had an opinion on its future. Fan theories took hold quickly. Comic book creators took sides. Bloggers discovered they had gained control of the narrative early, and DC fans fortified defenses and stockpiled ammunition. In just a few years, they would take what was theoretically supposed to be fun, comics, movies, and superheroes, and turn it into pure misery of misery, a war of personal attacks, vendettas, cult mentalities, antagonistic journalism, and career-altering decisions. Cut to 10 years later, and Henry Cavill is no longer the Man of Steel. Ben Affleck is no longer Batman. Zack Snyder is building a universe in Netflix with his Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon franchises. Joss Whedon is persona non grata in Hollywood, and that guy who showed everyone just how successful the Guardians of the Galaxy could be. James Gunn just wrapped up Guardians of the trilogy on a successful note, and is now co-head of DC Studios alongside Peter Safran. Together, they are relaunching the universe as a DCU. And as for the DCEU, Blue Beetle is in theaters, though sadly it seems few know it. It is the penultimate installment of the DCU, paving the way for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, or is it? The DCU's first entry. Few seem to know the answer to that one either. Given Gunn's perplexing comments that Blue Beetle is the first DCU character, but not the first DCU film, Blue Beetle's opening weekend amongst the lowest in franchise history comes after a string of box office misses, including The Flash, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Black Adam, and COVID-affected titles Wonder Woman 1984 and The Suicide Squad, as Gunn and Safran tee up to relaunch their slate of film and television products. Pundits are wondering, where have all the DC fans gone? A decade of constantly shifting decisions, executive musical chairs, overly aggressive critics, overly aggressive fans have left DC fandom a house divided. The reflections of which we can see all over our social media, it's a swamp that even a swamp thing could hesitate to dip a mossy toe into. I don't know why I'm having a problem reading this article. I already read it today. Blah. All right. There are those who are optimistic about DCU's future and eager for a reboot, following Gunn and Sabin's unveiling of Chapter 1 in January. There are those who are puzzled over what DCU actually is, given the mixed messages behind some actors and projects continuing, like the Suicide Squad spinoff series Peacemakers, while most will not. There are those who lament that Snyder did not get to finish the saga, which he envisioned, but there are others who have moved on, just like the director has. There are those who find a reboot unnecessary, given a decade of work that's gone into building DCU. There are those that have taken the cult approach to Snyder's films, making them and him their entire identity and crowding out those who are just fans of his movies and didn't conjure up images of Eminem's Stan. Ooh, wow. All right, didn't see that part. When I got that song in my head, with violent threats of mobilized harassment, and there are those who have moved on from the whole comic book movie thing. It's a difficult and often hostile environment for any casual fan to thrive in, and too much work for those, myself included, who are invested in these characters. But find online discourse to be filled with traps. Many of these were excited, Man of Steel, Affleck back in 2013, and found much to appreciation of Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice 2016, have receded into the background, keeping our DCU fandom close to the vest, while being crowded out by hashtag brigades and born book zealots. While MCU has so I had my highlight on this one. So, all right, so getting back to RJ's area here, his content that you brought up. All right. So here's my issue, and we'll get to the rest of it. I think the article itself, as I read it, this is the third time, I have a slight disagreement with how we're being characterized. But then in his defense, he does break it down. He does break it down, and he does, his article does what the headline does not. So let's see. Yeah, you guys are still hearing about the Mikey Sutton thing. Sucks to open up the show with that, especially when I already had memorials in there. But like I said, he's a part of a mutually shared community. Everybody in here is going to know who he is, so I could not ignore that. And like I said, rest in peace with that one. So, all right. So yeah, it makes it hard to read that, but I don't have an issue with Richard Newby. I think he's on my follow list, but I got a problem with these articles in general putting us in the same basket. But like I said, upon further detail of his article is not as bad. I don't agree with a lot of it, but it's not the usual Hollywood Reporter hit job, So let me I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat and not disrespect like I said, the people who have passed today. So I'm going to try to acknowledge as much of you guys as possible. But all right, let me finish this real quick, and I'm going to bring something else up. On the other hand, you can look at the poor turnout for the past DCU films, and as a lack of faith in the brand from general audience and fans, to the point where even good movies like Blue Beetle are getting brushed off. But on the other, perhaps string of box office disappointment casts a lasso of truth around audience, revealing that when it comes to movies, DC fans en masse aren't broad fans of the characters of the universe itself, but of filmmakers. All right, I got a slight issue with that, because of the fact that the general audience will probably know the IP of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman before they will know a particular filmmaker. The 3%ers may know this, but I don't think the general audience is as fixed on those as we are. And remember, we don't make up a lot of the fandom. I mean, we don't hold on for a second. Why am I freezing? I freezing? There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Restart. All right. So, like I said, we don't make up the bulk. So when these movies aren't successful, I feel, and I'll take your guys' opinion, that the burden is being put on the fans when these movies that they're putting out are things that people just aren't going to want to see. All right, so good movies like Blue Beetle are getting brushed off, but on the other hand, perhaps the string of box office revealing. I had this highlighted. When it comes to movies, DC fans are mass. Okay, when we look at the history of the most successful DC films and the ones that created passionate fan bases, there's almost always a distinctive filmmaker who can fit the auteur theory behind them. Richard Donner, Tim Burton, Christopher Nolan, Zack Snyder, James Wan, Matt Reeves are the filmmakers with instantly recognizable styles and directorial traits. Hell, we can even add Joel Schumacher to this list, as even his films have found an audience of late. The fact is that the lion's share of those filmmakers took on Batman has only cemented his place as the biggest draw for DC fans. Now, like I said, I'm trying to word this right without the general audience sees Batman. If you put that bat on it, it's your minimum is going to be what, 350 million. That's your starting point. I just don't agree that the general audience connects the filmmaker to these movies as much as we do, and we're not the overwhelming percentage. But Batman being the biggest draw. But see, Batman being the biggest draw is Batman. Period. A solo Batman movie is what's the least. I don't think has there been Batman movies in the modern era. I mean, I know Batman Begins didn't make as much money, but it went on to. So I'm trying to figure out. I have this highlighted on a different screen that I'm using. All right. All right. It seems that this factor, not necessarily the characters themselves, that really separates DC's film project from the MCU. The MCU has created a system in which fandom is generated by its characters and the directors, for the most part, are secondary. All right, so for the general audience, that I think that's the case with DC too. I think these movies. Okay, let me finish it. The fans love Spider-Man, but they're not buying John Watts shirts or expressing interest in his personal life. The majority of us aren't. Like I said, outside of YouTube, the majority of us aren't. But DC's fandom is driven by filmmakers elevated to celebrity status, and as a result, trust placed in their decisions. And it's that rationale that led to Black Adam, Shazam, Fear the Gods, Blue Beetle, all of which marketed as Marvel Light, failing to draw fandom. Okay, no. You know what failed them in drawing fandom? The fact that they're Black Adam, Shazam, and Blue Beetle. That's what made them. That had nothing to do with who was directing those movies. That had more to do with nobody knows who these characters are. They want Batman, they want Superman, they want Wonder Woman, and it doesn't always have to be those characters, but that's where it starts. Like I said before, those characters are the sun. All these other things are your planet where you want to grow stuff. You cannot grow anything without the sun, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, so all of which are marketed as Marvel Life, failing to draw fandom. Their target audience already had versions of those movies in the MCU, and the merits of representation that Black Adam and Blue Beetle offer, while commendable, are not big enough to draw in and themselves. But when Warner puts someone like Matt Reeves or James Gunn behind those titles, then there's a draw, and everything from the unconventional casting choices, character alteration becomes easier for fans not only to embrace but defend. All right, so the biggest example that's always used here. So obviously, when we think of James Gunn, we think of Guardians of the Galaxy, and people always make this boneheaded comparison between people not knowing who Guardians of the Galaxy were, and look how successful they were. But that was the 10th movie in the Marvel franchise, after they had fed you a healthy diet of their heavy hitters. And even Guardians of the Galaxy was part of the Infinity Saga. So those major characters were being used as support characters to support the smaller characters and vice versa. They were going along with their Z-listers. What DC did was in lieu of their A-listers. They're using their Z-listers to support the entire framework, and you can't do that. That's why this is where I disagree. But let me bring in Brad, because overall, it's not a poorly written article. It's not a bad article, but there are points in here I just fundamentally don't agree with. Where are you? I know you read it. Where are you at with it? Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I had to take off the mute button there.
Oh yeah,
it's okay.
Young guy with brand new toys.
Yes, which it just got in the mail, and as he mentioned, Rhea kind of hooked me up there. So thank you, Rhea. And yeah, it's like I'm upgrading, getting much better at this streaming business that I'm still fairly. I mean, this year it's like my entry point to live streaming. So it's like it's a learning process for me. But Rhea, big help there. So thank you very much. Yeah, so we were talking about a article on DC, I believe.
yeah, we were talking about this article on IA Porter, but like I said, not a horrible article. There's just some focal points in it that just are driving me crazy. Right
yeah, there's. I mean, I believe it dropped on Friday, and I mean, it seems like everybody's kind of got pretty strong opinions, positive or negative, on it, and I've been kind of struggling for a while now to sort of distill a lot of my thoughts on the situation with DC on film into kind of one like tangible sort of nugget. And I think after reading this and maybe a little bit preceding it, I think I've kind of managed to do that. And I think it does encapsulate a lot of what the commentary is really missing on it, which is the way I would put it is that when you talk about like where have the DC fans gone, where's the enthusiasm for the franchise, for the brand, all that, the post Justice League 2017 period, the behind the scenes chaos, the studio itself battling their own clientele on what they want to see, and the resulting what we're getting, the quasi, is it a reboot, what exactly is this with the DC Studios and James Gunn. The cumulative effect that I think so many people are missing on this is that the audience, the fan base, the general movie, everybody, the people who are invested in this as it began with Man of Steel, people are at a point now where it's like they feel like, I think the sentiment is people feel like they're being punished for the incompetence and the egomania and the mishandling that the WB administration has done with the IP up to this point. That, I think, is a pretty good way to sort of distill the attitude that so much of the commentary on this is missing, is that the Henry Cavill's here today, he's gone tomorrow. Where's the Justice League after ZSJL? Why are they not following up on it? All of that can be boiled down to, I think, people just feel like we are bearing the brunt of the mistakes of the studio, and that has been sorely missed in so much of the commentary on this. And as you said, the article itself, it's the headline. I think it does maybe not do many favors in terms of the what the thesis actually is, but that I think is missing from a lot of the commentary in the article and in the commentary in general that we've had on this point as far as DC goes. So it's a little bit long-winded.
And by the way, I called the article stupid. I should have said I think there's a stupid headline. Because I retracted that, because the article itself is not stupid. I don't agree with a lot of it, because I think there's a lot of stuff he's leaving out here.
Well, there's a lot there's a lot of elements in it where it's like I feel like it's like I'm kind of on the same track as what he's starting, and then he kind of veers off to the right from where I'm sort of starting. And I mean, Richard's done good articles previously, so I mean, this isn't meant to be like a absolute kind of diss on him. It's just that, but again, it's what you were saying. It's like I feel similar ways where it's like it's a lot of the points, like it starts without kind of going where I think the right direction, but then sort of careening off, and it's like, okay, now we sort of lost the plot here.
And see, and Anthony, okay, so here's the thing though, because very few situations where that's the case necessarily, because a lot of, like, unless you have like a Scorsese or a Sam Raimi or somebody who's legendary in that genre, that's not always the case, because the general fans are going to go see movies like The Nun or all these other movies of The Conjuring, and they don't necessarily know who James Wan was or any of those guys were. They see the trailer, it compels them, and they go see it. So when he says here that when you put James Gunn or anybody, you know, those type of names behind it, people are looking for, that's not necessarily true. People in our circle maybe, and some people who are hardcore film aficionados maybe, but the vast majority of the public couldn't name a director unless it's like Steven Spielberg, unless it's like the Mount Rushmore types. Most people just go to the movies based on a trailer, a TV spot, or if they're in that type of horror.
I think Nolan probably is one of the few directors where it's like his name alone is his brand. I mean, as we've seen with Oppenheimer performing as well as it has. I mean, it's like the Chris Nolan name can get butts in the seats. That's, you know, whether he's doing Batman movies or not. So, you know, we're talking about Chris, but he's definitely the exception to the rule.
Yeah, he's up there. I mean, you have your handful of people whose names are brand names, but the general audience doesn't necessarily, like I said, they're thinking on a different scale. Wow, this trailer looks cool. Holy cow. Oh, you know, is this part 2 of this? They may have seen multiple movies with the same directors and never made that necessary that connection with the director. They've connected with the IP, but not necessarily the director itself. So I disagree with that point there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
As you said with you know, mentioning the Gunn comparison, I mean, you know, he had, you know, great success with the Guardians franchise, but you know, you compare that, you know, with the Suicide Squad, and it's like it's not even comparable in terms of like the commercial impact that it had. So, and then Todd Phillips, I mean, you know, pre-Joker, I mean, I think everybody kind of mainly associated him with The Hangover. So.
And be honest with you, a lot of people didn't even associate with that. A lot of people did, but a lot of people didn't. That's not why they went to go see the Joker, though. You're not necessarily, most people who saw the Joker, a lot of them probably that was their first Todd Phillips movie. And I gave away tons of tickets to that one. No one I talked to knew who that was. Even if they knew who The Hangover was, even if they loved The Hangover, they didn't necessarily make that type of connection. That's not what drew them to that movie. There's nothing in The Hangover that says, "Damn, I'm gonna see this psychopath, you know, lose his mind." You know, there was nothing in there.
And with Matt Reeves, I mean, you know, as far as the Batman, I mean, I don't know. It's like, again, like how many people going into the Batman like would have been able to tell you off their head that this guy directed Cloverfield, or like what a lot of his prior work is. I mean, it's you know, you're taking on Batman. You're taking on Batman. I mean, it's like Batman is the selling point. So
yeah. So you know.
But that first point that I made, that's the thing I've really been trying to distill into, I think, a pretty digestible way to put out there in a stream. And I think I finally managed to do that, where it's like this mindset of where the fandom, where the audience, where the moviegoer stands with DC right now. That's what I think you can be boiled down to, is people feel like because the situation as it stands, they're being punished. They're bearing the burden. They're carrying for all the mistakes of the administration. It's like we're having to pay for how much they dropped the ball on all of this. And it's like you can't ask people to do that and not. It's a case. I mean, it's a classic case of don't piss on our heads until it's raining.
Yeah, and then basically tell us there's more piss coming in 2 years.
Yeah.
And we want you to pay for it. All right, those are films that fans will rally behind, but hopefully in a well-adjusted way that doesn't make you think you're going to see them inserting themselves into the director's family photos. James Gunn certainly seems like a filmmaker who can deliver an inspired take on Superman with Superman Legacy. Now, I believe this based on other factors, the fact that he's a decent storyteller and a good storyteller, but there's no evidence to this. You know, he has built a fan base. Once again, his fan base, and you've heard me say over and over again, I think James Gunn can pull this off, but not based on this, because his fan base has different expectations than what will be required from him in DC. So the fact that he's built a fan base for people who like Guardians of the Galaxy, that might not necessarily apply because the mission is different now. The expectation is different now. So And then it goes on to say, with truth really matters a lot less with general audience in the grand scheme of things. Most folks just want to have a good see a good movie. So that sentence right there kind of goes against what he said in the previous paragraph. And if that is delivered upon, a new fan base can emerge. As a filmmaker, Gunn has earned a lot of trust, but for fans both old and new to stick around after Legacy, he's going to need more than just a blueprint for the future. He's going to need a league of filmmakers whose audience can put their trust in. I disagree with that. And see, that focuses on us. That focuses on the people who analyze these filmmakers and every word and every decision. I don't think that's going to matter to the general public. I think where Gunn can get tripped up with the general public is if he creates a version of these characters that the general public doesn't jive with. They don't even need to know his name or how to spell his name. It's the IP is going to be front and center. It's that bat that's going to be front and center. It's that S that's going to be front and center. So who he gets as a filmmaker might matter to guys like me, but to Joe Sixpack, they ain't going to care about that. I like I said, let me. What else I had? I unhighlighted my shit. Damn it. I had parts on it highlighted that this, because like I said, the entire article, and I may have overreacted with the headline. You have to get past the headline to get into some of the stuff he said is very legitimate. There's other stuff that I just don't agree with. And I think where I get angry is this is just another one of these articles that sort of brings the real problems to the surface, in my opinion, but bypasses a lot of the nuts and bolts that are really the stopping points here.
Yeah. And it's, again, a lot of what I go back to is so much of what Warner Brothers management, the studio has put the onus so frequently on the audience and the fan base to show up, to be excited, to just hand over their money. And that's just not how you run a business. Where it's you're the one making the sales pitch. You're the one, the responsibility is on you to get people invested. When they're not invested and your response is to chastise them for that, that's why we landed the situation that we're in. I mean, and like one element of that in particular, I always go back to, I mean, as far as the Restore the Snyderverse topic that, is just so inescapable with DC, is, right after the movie came out, the 1.5 million tweet day, which, everybody saw on Twitter. It got Brad Paisley involved. It got such an amazing reaction. I mean, you think about like any other company, any other set of management, you see something like that. I mean, we should have been waiting 5 days maximum after that happened. And I mean, like William, it's like, I mean, as somebody who runs a business, I mean, what kind of analogy could I think of? It's like, I don't know, let's say Kingdom Come. Let's say like, you get like put out a survey to say, hey, sign this. What do you want us to bring into the Sci-Fi Center? And you get like 1.5 million responses saying, yeah, Kingdom Come memorabilia, get more of the collected edition in there. Just all the Kingdom Come stuff you could possibly get in there. We want to see that. And you get that response and you say, okay, Brady, how are we going to manage this? And I tell you, nope, we're good. We're not doing that. How much longer am I going to be working for you after that?
Not very long. Oops, not very long. Quickly it took me to catch that thing. So, this article frustrated me. And like I said, how I feel about Hollywood Reporter to begin with. So, and then the headline. So, but like I said, I highlighted the points of the article that just really, because I think it's just he touches on things we all know to be real, but there are certain things where he's letting, he's either letting things off the hook or he's not really. It just seems like where he's aimed at, and this is just my opinion, is aimed at a percentage of the audience that, as somebody who deals with moviegoers on a daily basis, that does not think that way. And like I said, unless it's Coppola, I mean, in some cases, Nolan, Spielberg, things like that. Like he even said in his article, most people are not going to connect on that level. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think as RJ said, it's like, so much of the commentary, including in the article, it's like it steps in the general direction of what we have, been beating the drum about so many times about the that you're just cutting the thing off and not giving it the ending that we know is out there. And that's where so much of the frustration and antipathy and online conflict maybe really stems from. And so much of it like it drifts in that direction, but it stops short. It doesn't stick the landing on like this is where the problem is.
Yeah. And he has a platform. And like I said, I tweeted earlier, this is a stupid article commentary. It's not a stupid article. I should have used the word, this is a very frustrating article. And I don't think it does. And this always drives me crazy with the Hollywood Reporter and Direct and all that. You had the opportunity there to really expose why people don't trust this going forward. You skim the surface a little bit, and that's great, but there's a lot more to it than that.
There's going to be plenty of opportunities to continue, delving into what with the frustration with the brand and the distrust of how it's been handled. I mean, there is no doubt about that in my mind that this topic is going to continue to hover around DC for a long time to come until 6
years, 7 years. Why can't we come up with a better head, dude? Where all the DC fans goes, you know what drives me crazy about that is if you just read the headline and don't do what we just did and dive into the thing. Like I said, Richard Newby, if you're watching, and I'm pretty sure you're not watching my Nobody Else show, I would like to talk to you and lay out my frustrations with your article. Not a horrible article. And I just don't agree with a lot of it. And there are certain focal points in your article that just drive me nuts, but that's fine.
We had the one on the bots last year, so it's like it's definitely a big step up. So,
oh yeah, that's probably okay. I got to let go of that one. But when you see a headline like that, right, you start thinking of what I consider to be the absolute dumbest meme on the internet.
Oh yeah, we've seen that plenty.
Right. When I saw this article, that's what I immediately, and you know what? Honestly, part of my just really snap anger goes because I feel not entirely, but this article sort of steps in that direction. I hate that meme. I hate that frame of thought. We're still here. All right. With the exception of Blue Beetle, which I still might go see on the $4 thing, whatever. That's the only DC movie I hadn't gone out and seen immediately.
Yeah, the fans are clearly around. I mean, it's the fans are here. It's like we're just feeling abandoned.
I'm showing up. But his article, and seeing there's a point in that article where I just like pulled out what little hair I have in here, is that they're not showing up. I don't agree with his reasoning on why they're not showing up. Here's what it comes down to. They don't care about these characters. I can sum it up in just those right there. They don't care about these characters. And the point where he says, well, putting James Gunn behind it will put faith behind it. Well, we're divisive about that. We're not even sure about that. They don't listen. You had a plan A. Here's Williams' article, the illiterate version of it. You had a plan A. You disrupted plan A. And you didn't have a better plan B. See, I learned that from the Army where they said, here's this training manual. Here's the plan that the Army's been using. It's been working for 200-something years, right? If you don't have a better plan than the one that you have in your hand, then guess what? You don't have a plan B. See, they disrupted plan A. And see, you have studio interference in every walk of life, in every genre, every movie, every studio. The difference between one and the other is when you're doing it right and you know what the hell you're doing and you have a better plan, it's seamless. Kevin Feige's probably changed a lot of stuff going forward. His bosses are probably
no doubt about it. I mean, he had to change it with when Gunn, came and went from Guardians 3. I mean, that got that place that it was going to have in the MCU was totally different from where it ended up being.
Yeah, and you make that adjustment, and when you know what you're doing, it's seamless. But when you replace A-listers like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman with those expectations, and then you give me Huntress, you give me Black Mask, who I like, but nobody knows who he is. You give me Blue Beetle, you give me Shazam, you give me these characters as replacements for what you had. That's where the common fan goes away. This article, and I'm not, and it's unfair for me to put all this on one guy. My frustration was where these trades go is they never aim at the fact that the expectation was set. Whether you agreed or not where it was going, if you didn't have a better plan to meet that expectation, you needed to shut the hell up and step back as an executive and a pundit.
And to use Black Adam as an example, I mean, you're talking about. I mean, one point I've made previously on one of the streams is that for as awesome as it was to see Henry's comeback cameo, the fact that it was a comeback cameo was an indictment of that management. You have an active DC on film franchise with no Superman in it. And the fans had to beg and hashtag for over a year to get him 5 seconds of him Black Adam. I mean, right there, that tells you the management doesn't know what they're doing when you're doing a DC universe without Superman in it, and the fandom has to fight you on that. Something's rotten in Denmark.
Yeah, and then in another thing in the article, and this was another thing, like I said, there were points in this article where I was on a wave, and I'm like, oh, is you listed the failures, right? But Blue Beetle didn't fail, from what I can tell. Everybody's told me that seen it wasn't a bad movie. I know a lot of people like The Flash. I know a lot of people bitch and moan about the baby and the CGI, but people like The Flash. They're watching it. These movies. There are worse movies out there that are making a lot more money. That is not why these movies are failing. These movies are are failing not because of guys like me, nerds who wear shirts like this, are not showing up, because we are. The guys I talk to outside of my circle, the guy at the grocery store, the guy at my job, the guy fixing the car, the guy when he sees me wearing this shirt, he starts asking me about The Flash, which tells you shouldn't be making a Shazam movie. All right. These are the guys that they're losing. In that article, I don't think he addresses the general audience, right? But he doesn't address the lineage that goes through the mistake. It goes back to the whole, okay, well, yeah, yes, we have cult fandoms out there. We have them. We know who they are. But that doesn't have anything to do with the general audience. The general audience doesn't necessarily. I had people in here who are unfamiliar with the situation in here on March 18th, 2001, watching Zack Snyder's Justice League. You didn't know any of that drama.
2001? I think you mean 2021.
2021, I'm sorry. Yeah, you weren't even born. 2021, but they didn't know about the drama. They didn't know about the movement. They knew who Superman was. They knew who Batman was. They knew who Wonder Woman was. They knew that's where we have failed with this. The quality of the movies, yes, has been good, but it doesn't matter. And I've said this over and over and over again. Making a good movie is unfortunately 25% of your success. The situation you're in and the way you market it and everything else is the rest. All right. You can release a crappy movie or a mediocre movie, Captain Marvel, into the best situations, and then you have $1 billion movie out of a movie that was a mediocre movie. But you can release other movies. If DC had been in a much better situation, Blue Beetle as a support character in the flow of the story with the sunlight of the Trinity on the entire universe, not necessarily in everything, but as part of that universe, Blue Beetle does better. Blue Beetle shouldn't have bombed, from what I can understand. The Flash shouldn't have bombed.
Exactly.
But it has nothing to do with the fact that these are not bad movies, but they're in a bad situation. And it doesn't address the fact that, like I said, even though I'm a believer that this guy can pull it off, they have made decisions at the outset that have hurt themselves. That nobody's bringing that up. The fact that, somebody did. I did see something somewhere else, and I lost that one. But somebody brought up the fact that, okay, by the time you get to your first movie, James Gunn has had to fight so much, to fight the perception so much, that just 2 years of fighting that perception. We don't have any trailers. We don't have anything for the DCU yet. All we have is space in between now and then to commemorate. That's not good. Whereas if they had handled this right, we could have ended one universe, and I got into detail about that on other streams. We could have transitioned into his thing. And you know what? Yeah, the hardcore cultists, whatever you guys want to call us, would have been angry, would have been pissed off. But you know what? You play your math, and the rest of us, the 95%ers, we would have been on board. We would have been on board. So let me bring up Rhea, because I think she articulates this great, as she always does. I think you said all along that the article is saying the 10 poles of the I can't talk today. The 10 poles of the brand are deprioritized, plus misrepresented in the film sector. Not much long-term connection, just momentum. Yes. That's true.
And that's exactly what you saw in the immediate aftermath of Justice League 2017. When we get to the Snyder Cut, Aquaman, obviously that's following. It's following more, much more directly on CSJL. But
you freeze.
No, okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, but then you had Shazam, you had Birds of Prey, you had these, the Suicides, you had all these movies that just were not, that are nominally within the same franchise in the same connected universe, but they're just not in any kind of communication with each other. There's no sense of any kind of forward momentum. Like, this is what we're building toward. This is our end game. This is our Infinity Saga. You had that. You regained that when the ZSJL came out, when it teased Darkseid, when it teased the Nightmare, when it teased the future war against Apocalypse, and you got that.
You still there?
Yeah. Can you? Yeah. Am I buffering? And you got all that. You had that second chance just handed to you on a silver platter, and you turned it down. And this is the chickens coming home to roost on that. And I hope that whole rant came out.
All right, 4,000. Yeah, I know. I jammed up. I don't think you did.
Okay.
Nobody knew Iron Man and Thor outside of comic book nerds. That's it. Sorry to DC newbie characters should have sold. No, they shouldn't have. Why? Okay, first, why would I buy that? Why? You're talking about, first of all, you're talking about two different companies. DC is not Marvel, and Marvel is not DC. The expectations are not the same. Two, Iron Man and Thor were founding Avengers. Enough people knew who they were. And another thing, here's two other reasons that absolutely annihilate this point that's often brought up. Not only that, but you had a series of comic book movies with the Marvel name, because no one knew what the MCU was in 2008. They just saw, that they saw that Marvel, they saw that logo. You had successful X-Men movies.
Yeah, Spider-Man, yeah.
You had Spider-Man movies. You even had a goofy Fantastic Four movie, but that still made money. It wasn't the greatest, but you had a rhythm. You had recognition. People recognized the Marvel brand up to the point where you could move into what you were doing, especially on Spider-Man. Spider-Man 1 and 2, Tobey Maguire. Spider-Man 2 is one of the greatest comic book sequels of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Period. So, and none of those movies, I believe, made less than $700 million. So
the Tobey movies, they didn't, yeah.
Yeah, in that era, that's big box office money. So MCU and Disney and Marvel Studios at the time, they used the highest tier characters that they had access to. So even if it wasn't even as much a gamble on Iron Man, as that's the highest tier. You didn't have the FF, you didn't have the X-Men, you didn't have Spider-Man.
And they absolutely, and if they could have started the MCU with Spider-Man and the X-Men, they would have. They absolutely would have.
So they started it with the founding of the Avengers, and they told that story in just pretty much the way it unfolds in the comic, with very little exception. So you can't just say that they just pulled Iron Man out of their ass and then here, nobody knows who this guy is. They knew what Marvel was.
Well, and not only that, but
now you flip it to DC. Go ahead.
Well, I was about to say, you look back on, phase one, pre-Avengers. You had, the Iron Man movies were big hits, but you had the Incredible Hulk that didn't do, that well. Thor was moderate, it was fairly, it was sizable, but then you had like Captain America: The First Avenger was a middling hit at best. It's like, and it wasn't until they got to Avengers where they really hit that stride, where it's like now Marvel is like, now they've got everybody in their pocket, and they were able to maintain that because they didn't blink. It's not a matter of their plan was fundamentally better than DC's. They didn't blink on theirs whenever they hit a rocky road.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that article just didn't do it for me. Sorry, Richard Newby. Yeah. Much respect to you. He's written some stuff that has really just absolutely blitzed me, and I'm like, I don't understand this. But this isn't the worst that he's done. There are some fundamental points in there that just made me like, what are we doing here? And here we go again. And like I said, the article itself, yes, in all fairness, he brings up a lot of valid points, but he misses a lot of stuff in there that makes his valid points connect for me. That's just William's opinion. You guys can throw your shade and hate at me online, but that's the way I feel. All right, so let me go through some of this because we're going to move on to other topics here.
Yeah, we got definitely. I wasn't expecting. Again, this was when you told me I was going to be fairly recently. I heard, this is going to be the opener, but we got other somewhat more pleasant things. They're less ranty.
Yeah, so like I said, Richard Newby, if you're watching this show, I may have a little overreacted once I saw your headline, but you know what? In all fairness, you need to make a better headline. You had to know. You had to know how polarizing that headline would be, especially to us, the people online reading it, that we're like, we're here. You're getting our money.
Yeah, we're
It's the
here.
other
We're
guy.
telling you what we want to see, and you're ignoring us. That's.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Yeah. Thank you, Rhea. Please, like I said, Streamlabs, all that stuff. Join the Patreon. Let's see. Suicide Squad didn't fail because James Gunn. No, it didn't. The movie should have never been made. As much as I enjoyed the Suicide Squad, as much as the first Shazam movie is one of my favorite comic book movies ever. As much as I enjoyed some of these movies, you doomed them by making them. You cannot make these Z-list characters and just throw them out in the ocean and drive the boat away. The boat is Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, etc. These other things that you're doing are little boats that cannot survive on themselves without the big yacht, without the aircraft carrier. And if you're not going to support those movies with the aircraft carrier, how many times did you launch? Do you launch the planes off the aircraft carrier and then take the aircraft carrier out of range of the planes? No. They're there to support each other. The jets, the aircraft are there to protect the fleet and the aircraft carrier. The aircraft carriers to support the logistics of the fleet. They cannot exist without each other. You cannot take the logistical heavyweight off of the playing field and expect all these other little things that are dependent upon and derivative upon to survive. So the Suicide Squad, remember, I've been consistent with this, RJ, should have never been made. Blue Beetle should have never been made without a plan for the Trinity.
One also, I mean, which again, we got the article right after the Snyder Cut came out saying, yeah, forget about all that. So there you go. So, but also to that point about the day and date, I mean, I think you've raised this point as well. I mean, there were other movies released during that day and date phase, and also during like earlier stages of the pandemic that that were able to achieve much bigger theatrical success. I think you've used like Godzilla vs. Kong is the big example for that.
We promoted every one of these movies that we were talking about. I literally promoted. Godzilla vs. Kong came out in March of 2021. We hadn't had a vaccine yet. This was the first major movie coming back into the theaters, and people were scared crapless to go to the theaters. All right, people were still dying by like at least 2,000 people a day. We were just under a year into COVID. We hadn't got a vaccine yet. So, but Godzilla vs. Kong found a way to make money.
Well, and the way it did was, I mean, as you said, it's just coming out of, it's a year into the pandemic, theaters are finally starting to open back up, and the selling point. I mean, it's like after that period, what could be more cathartic than watching the lizard and the chimp beating the shit out of each other? So,
yeah. Now, when you look at the Suicide Squad that was released in August of that same year, yes, you had the Omicron variant, but you also had a good portion of the percentage of the audience that were back to going to the movie theaters. I remember we were tracking those numbers because we were tracking how the movie was doing. That was part of what we were doing. And it was released in August. You had Omicron, but you also had a good percentage of the society that did decide that they were going to the movies as a vaccination was part of that plan. A lot of people got the vaccination so that they could live their lives as normal as possible.
And this isn't like an exact 1-to-1, but I mean, a couple months after that, you had Spider-Man No Way Home come out, and that became one of the biggest movies ever made. During the
you also had Dune come out and make me
Yeah, the Dune, and it had the day and date, and Dune, did I think it exceeded expectations theatrically. Yeah. Which I know, and speaking of Dune, I know you're still dealing with some heartbreak relating to that. So, which we'll get into that, I'm sure.
And I'm gonna lightning hit that one because it makes me sick. But here's the thing: when it comes down to you could add. Let's say that all those circumstances, the people you're bringing up here, are part of that. They are not the chief part of that. The main reason, in my opinion, and everybody has their opinion on this, that Suicide Squad failed. And let's take away COVID. Let's take away a lot of these things. R-rated movie. Once again, Joker was R-rated movie. It made $1 billion, and why? Because people know what the Joker is.
Well, and also, let me inject real quick. I mean, I don't think anybody's saying James Gunn caused it to.
No. Yeah. I like the story. I like Suicide Squad, but these factors, R-rated movie, that if you will release this movie without the COVID, without the day and date release, I still think Suicide Squad bombs. That has nothing to do with the quality of the movie. I like the movie. I said over and over again, I like James Gunn for the most part. I like the movie, but they're unrecognizable IPs for the most part, except for Harley Quinn,
and you have Will
in a movie that bombed before the pandemic.
Yeah, and you also have Will Smith leading the first one. So I mean right away it's like you got butts in the seats, big star as your lead there.
Yeah. So you have a movie that's basically about throwaway characters with no major IPs in it, other than Harley Quinn, who wasn't at that point the draw that she had been before. Otherwise, Birds of Prey wouldn't have bombed like it did. This movie failed because it was a movie that should not have been made outside of the infrastructure of the mainline DC characters. We're not saying it's a horrible movie, and it's not James Gunn. Listen, James Gunn didn't say yes to himself. They told him whatever you want to do, and he chose this. They said yes. I don't blame James Gunn at all for this. James Gunn actually made a fabulous movie. I love Suicide Squad.
He's very well suited for as far as like DC characters. He's very well suited for Suicide Squad, where he's just offing 20 characters in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, literally in the credits, it's hilarious. They're killing people as the credits are rolling by. The people are dying. Yeah, I thought the Suicide Squad was great, but I thought Shazam was great, and I thought and I didn't have a problem. But the major problem with Black Adam, I think, under the right circumstances, if you have a plan for your Batman, if Batman and Superman and all these characters, the mainline characters, hadn't been sidelined for 5 years, I think you create a situation that these movies actually would have been a better success on.
And I will defend Black Adam to my dying day, but
I like one with Black Adam.
But again, what you're saying, and what I had said earlier, it's like the fact that people had to fight to get 5 seconds of Superman in it, as the preceding factor into it, that tells you everything.
And then we're blamed. Oh, well, they put Cavill in there, and you guys didn't go see it. I'm like, you put Cavill in there for less than a minute, and you did that at the last minute. You come on, and you had the guy who was in charge of the movie or producing the movie had to fight for 6 years for that to happen. That tells you alone that movie would. But guess what? If there's a Superman movie out there, or he's part of that movie, and we're not looking for Superman on milk cartons for 5 years, guess what? Black Adam probably does better. Blue Beetle is a support character. Blue Beetle is not a character you put out there without your universe set. You don't even put him in. He has a hard time not getting canceled in the comic books, any version, without support characters. He is a support character. That's what he is. Always. Ted Kord, that doesn't matter. He's a support character, and what DC has tried to do is they try to replace their A-listers with support characters, and then a couple cameos here and there. And then when you finally get to the Flash that has it all, you've taken us off the oxygen for 5 years, and now everybody's supposed to come back and do backflips. It's tough. So yeah. So like I said, I love the Suicide Squad. I thought it was a fine movie. I like James Gunn's. I think he's the right guy. I think given the right mission and the right parameters, I think he could do well. Unfortunately, I think the situation, some of it of their creating, most of it of the previous regime, almost 90% of the previous regime, but there are some decisions that have been made at the outset that I disagree with, and I think could hurt them in the long run. And we'll just have to see. Yeah. So, all right, let's go on, and then we're going to jump into some other stuff. Suicide Squad didn't feel okay. I already read that. Fourth, I actually hope not our day. The reasons being we need Hubert John. Yeah, I do. I think there's still money to be made in Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. You just got to stop running from those characters.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. So, all right. I would never have guessed Hangover director. Yeah, exactly. Hangover director did Joker.
We have on air evidence of the point we were making earlier.
So what Richard Newby is saying, I respectfully disagree with him there, because that's not why people went to go see either of those movies, even if they saw them both.
Yeah, you don't see it because of the Hangover guy. You see it because it's the Joker.
Yeah. All right. Here's another point that I think is important. The Suicide Squad at least did good on home video and streaming, and they were happy with Peacemaker before him, so they got some small victory leads. Not big enough. And here's the thing about that is that's fine. You know how I feel about streaming being the focal point of entertainment. I think it's the genie's out of the bottle. But what you're saying there is they spent all this money and all this, and I'm okay with streaming, but in Peacemaker, they made the decision to make Peacemaker before $1 was made with Suicide Squad. And they had the opportunity to go to the theater to see Peacemaker on the big screen. They chose not to, and you gave them a series. Now, granted, the success of Peacemaker and where they thought of it after that, this is prior to the decision. This is where the flaw in the decision-making process was. You took that type of risk, spent that type of capital to have to rely on those results when you could have spent that capital on IPs that people knew, then made these things exactly how you made them. I wouldn't change a thing about Suicide Squad. I wouldn't change a thing about Black. I wouldn't change. Well, I'd add more Superman, but a lot. And for all I know, there's nothing to be changed about Blue Beetle. They could have released these movies as they were, had they had the plan in place for their entire universe. The expectation, whether you like it or not, for the average fan is Superman, Batman, so on. And the people who make these movies from this point on, they have to understand how to balance the light of those characters bring. You don't have to have them in every single movie. I understand that. I understand the risk there. But they have to be the ones pushing the universe to the side of the table that the general audience says, "Ooh, what's that? Batman just pushed over with the Blue Beetle?" Okay.
I mean, it's like if Marvel after Avengers and Thanos turning around to the camera and all the reaction to that, they said, yeah, and they're just going to be this kind of this presence that we mention occasionally, but get on board with Guardians and Ant-Man and Captain Marvel. It's like, what kind of results are they looking at that point?
Fair question to everybody, though. And we look in hindsight of the success of the MCU and the success of Guardians of the Galaxy. Had Guardians of the Galaxy been one of the very first movies the first movie that Marvel Cinematic Universe put forth, do you think the people who did that would still have their jobs?
No, that never gets greenlit as movie one.
In fact, that just never happens. No one loses their jobs because it never happens. If I came into your office talking about a talking tree and a talking raccoon without Avengers doing $1 billion, without Captain America Captain America, Iron Man, without the 9 previous movies that have increasingly gotten you to this point, if I come in there without those previous movies and start talking to you about Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm probably going to get politely walked out of the office, and the secretary is probably going to be told not to let me back in.
I mean, it's in the first trailer for it where it's like, I'm Star-Lord. Who? I mean, they're commenting in the trailer the lack of public awareness of these characters and how much of at this point, this is Marvel making their real flex that they can take whatever characters they want out of the comics and make them A-list movie stars.
Yeah, you couldn't make that movie. The first 5 minutes of the Suicide Squad are rated R. Man.
No, yeah, just like that. There's no PG-13 version of that. Yeah, man.
But once again, you can float that with things that people know who they are. You can float that with Joker because I could walk out in the middle of the street and show you any picture of the Joker that I got on my wall. I don't care who it is, what part of the world they are from. They're going to know who the Joker is. So the Joker being rated R wasn't going to hurt your audience because everybody knows. But when you're talking about obscurity and things like that, people, it's just, you just don't have the benefit of the doubt. All right, so let's flip. All right, James Gunn is the word of audience fatigue. You talked about trying to do differently. Listen, I'm 100% on board with this. I just think that we're in a point of the game right now where nobody trusts the results of anybody doing anything anywhere. And here's a guy coming in with whatever it's going to be called, reboot, restructuring, whatever it is, and it's deflating. It's deflating, and it's deflating for the hardcore fans because it's like, damn, you just threw away 9 years.
And we know what the reasons why it's deflating.
Yeah, and then the general fan is like, this is too complicated. Look at all these other things out here. Look at all these other shiny lights. It's just DC's made themselves too complicated to pick up. People are going to pick up the easier toy. They're not going to pick up the Rubik's Cube. They're going to pick up the water gun, All right. Let's see. I love the Sony Marvel movies for the most part. They're not perfect. They're not perfect, but I have fun with all of them.
I dug Venom. Venom Let There Be Carnage. I really had a lot of fun with. Morbius was. Yeah. Morbius was just kind of for me. I do like the Venom movies. I'm really looking forward to and this this is a impacted by the strike too. I am looking forward to Kraven the Hunter. With the knowledge that it's like, it's like, yeah, we're taking the gloves off. This is going to be it's like, yeah, it's got Rhino in it. It's like, yeah, I'm looking forward to that a lot. And
Kraven bit off a guy's nose in the trailer.
Yeah, and and also what they're going to do with Madam Web sounds pretty interesting to me, because she could be like the connective tissue between all these Sony, all different Spider-Man, Toby and Andrew, and yeah.
Here's what I think about Madam Web. I think at the end of Madam Web, there's going to be a connection made that makes the end credits of Morbius understandable.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'm not going to pass final judgment on Morbius's end credit scene until I see Madam Web, because I have a feeling that all this is part of that.
Yeah, imagine that, like Morbius, like the Morbius apology tour, if that were to happen. That would get.
All right. How you doing, Azteca? What's going on? A Raven movie with Jenna Ortega. Yeah, she's busy.
Yeah, she's well, I mean, strike aside, I mean, she's definitely got at least she's got Scream and Wednesday kind of keeping her busy. Yeah.
All right, Chappie. William and Brad. Also, a lot of people are looking forward to Superman Legacy. It's going to be more hopeful, like Christopher Reeve Superman, because they want their nostalgia. But we tried that with Superman Returns.
That's the exact point I was going to make. It's like
that bombed. That bomb.
And I don't think it's. I don't think it's. I think it's better than it gets credit for. I mean, the director and the Lex Luthor involved aside, I do think it's better than it gets credit for. I mean, obviously, I haven't revisited it nearly as much as I have Man of Steel, but I do think it's it's very.
And Brandon Routh plays a good Superman.
I was glad when he came back in Crisis. I was so glad he got in.
So he just was given a bad movie. That meme is I hate that meme. I hate that meme because I feel attacked. Because I'm the guy wearing the goofy shirt in public, reporting.
All of us fans are going, "Am I chopped liver or something?"
Yeah, I know, and we're the only ones. But like I said, I think that highlights the fact that that, like I said, just the general audience is just not coming with us. All right. Oh, here we go. Ray is gonna get me. William, your refusal to see Blue Beetle in theaters is reflective of that app. Yes, it is. You got me. I think this topic is less about DC fans and more about lack of compelling content. WB can make more good films and content. Yeah, because if you make compelling content, that's where you get the general audience in. Because let's be honest, a guy like me, and I'm probably, before Blue Beetle comes off the screen, I'm probably going to go see it. So, but a guy like me, you have me, but I'm like 3%. You need 97% to roll in there. So yeah, she's 100% right there. So, all right, how you doing, Vince? What's going on, man? It's a seafood clerk at your local. Oh yeah, you got a new job. Cool. Send some frozen seafood down to Vegas. All right, that's even worse. The fact that DC movies are reviewed as good and people still aren't showing up. Well, there's a lot more to reviews and stuff. Like I said, you have to get to a certain point to where a review even matters to you. If the entire universe has turned you off for 5 years, it doesn't matter how good review it is or how good the movie is, unfortunately. And you've wasted a lot of people's good, hard work. A lot of people work hard on these movies that are going to bomb.
Yeah. And that's what makes it so frustrating, is just how avoidable the situation was and still is.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna jump into another topic because, like I said, I've committed to make things that make me happy. And like I said, I am not as venom spewing at Richard Newman. I just don't agree with it. I'm sorry. There's just too many things on there that I agree. And he had the wherewithal to bring up certain legitimate points, but there's, like we just discussed, the huge gaps, in my opinion, that make those points matter. Just bringing those up without the other things doesn't, to me, it's like you're trying to defend somebody in court and you're only bringing on, half your files. That's my opinion. So, oh well. Yeah, I think so too. All right. So who are we going to go? So we got past the memorials, including one that opened up the damn show with.
Yeah, and of course, you mentioned about, I mean, all the memorials at the beginning. I mean, my heart just goes out to, I mean, everybody you mentioned. I mean, it's a funny. I mean, this maybe is telling on my, the age gap between us again. It's like Bob Barker. It's like, I knew him through Happy Gilmore before I did The Price is Right. So
somebody else is in the chat room saying that.
And not only that, it's like him, Happy Gilmore, and also Carl Weathers. I knew Carl Weathers as Chubbs Peterson. I knew him as Chubbs Peterson before I knew him as Apollo Creed.
I'm sorry. I apologize, my fellow geeks. For those of you watching live, and those of you who are going to be watching this live, that the great Carl Weathers, that Apollo Creed, the man who gave his life in Rocky IV for America, was unknown to my embryo of a co-host until Happy Gilmore. I apologize on behalf of geeks everywhere.
I think I got on Rocky pretty quickly after that.
I'm at a loss for words.
I can't. Well, now I can't say anything about Kathy Bates and Waterboy. Or
where have I gone wrong? Here I am on a Saturday night with a guy who wasn't even born. With Rebel Moon is like the only thing on my thing that you were alive for.
It wasn't strike.
It came out yet. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to put Vince when we edit this video. We're gonna oh my goodness. But yeah, so where were we at? Okay, yeah. So all right. Wow. All right, what's next? What's on my thumbnail? I have to cleanse my mind of this. All right, so we're gonna talk strike later because I
talk about the article so much.
Yeah, that doesn't make me. That was a new thing, and like I said, I
get it.
I only read it earlier the day, and like I said, in retrospect, I still have a lot of issues with it, but I do take back the term "stupid" because it wasn't a stupid article. I just fundamentally don't agree with some of the stuff, the key things that were left out, and I think that hurts the article. And it's presented in a way, like I said, from headline down. I think it should have read, where is the general audience? Where is the DC general audience gone? Maybe that would have, slid me in a little bit easier, but
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to bring up something that makes me happy. And yes, it's something that deals with death, resurrection, and all kinds of stuff because back in the late 80s, a certain independent comic company put out one of the greatest comic books of that era, which led to a movie that was destined for VHS had not Brandon Lee died, unfortunately. Even though I love The Crow, I love the soundtrack. I think that The Crow's soundtrack would have made a lot of money, but I don't think that The Crow in the theaters would have made a lot of money, unfortunately. And that has nothing to do with what I think of the movie. I love the movie, but that's just the way we were back in the 90s. We gravitate, kind of like we are now, kind of gravitate towards death and controversy. So,
and let me also this. I was alive when this was written. Okay, so.
Yeah, Brad. All right, so The Crow. This I think I was 14 when I read this, and this was one of the first comics because at that age it was DC Marvel, and a few other things. The Crow was one of the first non-superhero comic books I ever read, and the thing about when I read The Crow, even though it was 6 years later, I think, before the movie came out, maybe 7 years.
That was about 5. It was 5 years. It was 90. It was 89 to 94. So that would have been 5-year gap.
5 years. I could hear the soundtrack that should be with this movie while I'm reading this. It was the first comic that I bought that I actually paid for with my own money. That was in all black and white. Obviously, it had color covers, but it was in all black and white. it was at the time, other than Alien Legion, which was not as bad, the most violent comic I bought, and it dealt with issues because it was an independent. It dealt with issues that you just didn't see in a superhero comic or in a DC or in a Marvel comic. We didn't have Image at the time. Image was still 3 years away from being created. There was no Spawn. So, the whole resurrection theme was done differently in comic books. If somebody came back from light, to life, it was because of Galactus or somebody cosmic brought them back, or the Grandmaster. It wasn't like this. There was no mythology to those kind of books back then. What made The Crow so different is it was stark violence and hatred and revenge. That's what it started out as, and then because the comic opens up that way, it pretty much the same way like the way the movie does. Before you get a chance to know Eric Draven, before you get a chance to know what life means to any of these guys, the story is told in such an order where that's all gone now. You enter in the story from the point of view of his hatred and his revenge and his sole mission to his one night that he's brought back to right that wrong. And you sort of feel sorry for the criminals because he puts it to them. He puts it to them, but the brutality, that's the word I'm looking for, the brutality of The Crow, it has everything that comics in 1989 didn't have. I mean, we were still getting over the controversy of what was going on in The Killing Joke a year prior, right? The Crow, there's rape involved, there's murder involved, there's gang rape involved, there's people getting shot. There's a line in there where the guy who killed Eric Draven to start off with, he's saying that his head's still smoking from the shotgun blast. This was in 1989. Now, for those of you, obviously, a lot, if I'm not going to assume everybody knows The Crow, so I'll go ahead and explain. The Crow is the story of Eric Draven, who is killed by a group of thugs, and his girlfriend is raped. He's killed. He's thrown out of a window. In the movie, that he's thrown out of a window. He's left for dead. He dies, and the Crow, which is the spirit that we talked about in depth a couple of days ago, that picks and chooses and brings back a particular person so that person can get their vengeance. And why they're empowered by the Crow, they can't die, they can't be harmed, and they are to go after those that cause their death and cause their pain. And that's exactly what he does. The Crow film that was released in 1994, to this day, in my opinion, is the most accurate comic book movie ever made, given its content and given, there's one aspect of the movie that I wish they could have found a way to do voiceovers or whatever. And when I watched the Sandman TV show, I see that they could have with Matthew, and that's the Crow in the movie should have talked, because what he's saying to him throughout the series is very important, in my opinion. What he's saying to him, there's a scene where he's remembering, or right at the point where he's been shot. And in the comic book, I don't think he's doing it in the movie. In the comic book, he's shot. He's out in the forest. They're attacked out in a park somewhere, and they're raping his girlfriend. And he's still alive. He's still smoking. He's still alive. And the Crow already knows he's gonna die. That's when you first see the Crow, and the Crow is like, "Turn away. We'll get him later. It's all gonna be over." So the Crow is consoling him and bridging him from the land of the living to what he's going to become later on, a year later, when he's resurrected and he goes after these fools. And the Crow keeps him focused. So the movie is lacking that. And I guess in the 90s, that would have been, they thought that would have been a little bit too far, Talking Bird. But now, like I said, we have Matthew, and that works. I don't know if I would use, what's his face? Oswald, whatever. I forgot his name, but you know who he is, the guy who does a voice for Matthew in The Crow, or not in The Crow, in The Sandman. I would probably get a different voice. Hey, maybe Morgan Freeman. I don't know. But that's the only thing in the movie that really, and plus how he dies. In the movie, it's different. The rape and everything happens, but I believe in the movie, he's thrown out of the window and he dies that way. And she does survive, and the cop that is played by Bernie Hudson stays with her, and he uses those thoughts, against his enemy at the end. It is this is the turning point story, and a lot of these turning points. And now that we got our Patreon and everything else turned up, I'm going to leave the very next one I do next week. I'm going to leave that up to you guys, because although the Crow was a turning point for me as a comic book fan, this one was, like I said, it introduced me into what kind of comics you could make when you didn't have a DC or a Marvel editor saying, "Oh no, we can't do that." So, since you were alive during this one, what did you think about the Crow?
Yeah, the Crow. So, I mean, I think you've kind of outlined. I think pretty well covered it there. Where it's like, yeah, this was, this was very off the beaten path from everything that you would see in like DC or Marvel. Like we said, Image hadn't come around yet, so it was dealing in themes that that were very mature and were very that was pushing the envelope for the time a lot. So and talking about of course the movie that came out of it, with Brandon Lee. I mean, and yeah, it's like I think that what you say about it being like the most like one-to-one transition. I mean, it's like I could definitely see that, because they took great pains to like bring this kind of imagery to life in the Crow, and for the most part carried over a lot of the kind of the more adult content, more mature thematic elements, and of course the whole thing with just it being just this so centered on just the dichotomy of life and death. So it's like, yeah, the Crow, I mean, what else can you say about it? It's just it's a seminal work outside of like the Marvel and DC framework.
Yeah, and at a time where this wasn't like the '90s and everything, where everything just got kind of watered down. This was a good time to be a comic book fan as far as a store owner. I was 5-6 years away from owning my own place, but I was buying comic books at the Lone Word Comics in San Bernardino, where I'm from. And like I said, that is why I became a store owner, because of my influence there. And this got recommended to me. And, my dad trusted Gary and Mike, who ran my store, not to give me anything that I couldn't handle. He knew them, and we he would leave me there all day Saturday. I would literally, no joke, when I was a teenager, I wasn't one of the cool kids. I'm not one of the cool adults, so you can probably figure that one out now. But life for me, enjoyment for me, is dropping me off at 11 o'clock on Saturday and picking me up at 6 or 7 o'clock on Saturday night. That's all we did, was we talked about comic books, and we would have people that would rotate in to come pick up their subscriptions, and they would be coming in there for 5 minutes, and it ended up talking to them for like an hour, and then that's how it happened. And then that's how the Crow got introduced to me, because we were talking about comics, we wish comics were a little bit that didn't hold back. And then a guy pulls out the counter and says, "You need to start reading this."
This doesn't hold back. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does not hold back. And like I said, I had watched enough horror movies and movies of that like to understand, to take what I was reading into context. The Crow blew me away. The artwork blew me away. The black and whiteness of it is just, there was no, all the details were there. All the horrible details of her being raped, him being shot up that way. And then how
and that's a unique thing for its time, selling something, to that level of success on on black and white, where it's where you're not having, like the vibrant, X-Men kind of color scheme to it.
Yeah, they're called 4-color fantasies for a reason. And you only had black and white. And be honest with you, in hindsight, I'm glad that they did it that way, because when you read the Crow, it hits like a punch. It hits like a punch. And then the cool thing about the Crow is as you start to see, because they tell it out of sequence sometimes, as you start to see. Now, the one thing that the movie does not do, because it only has a limited amount of time to do so, is it shows you the humanity that he lost. Because when you see the Crow and he goes about killing, he's like, this is a cold-blooded mofo. These people deserve to die. Fuck them. But when you see the flashbacks, and you see the flashback storylines, and you see the poems and stuff that he's writing, you see all the stuff that J.O. Barr puts into this, you realize that this was a human, that the Crow is everything that he was not, but everything he needs to be for this one night to take his revenge. He gets one night, and then he goes back to the grave. So I think the story does an excellent job of not only showing you the contrast of what he has become and what the bird has done to him, but it also shows you that his humanity was lost, and the only way he can get peace. And the whole story is about people, and this is a big thing in the 80s, people finding peace after violent crimes, people who've lost people who've been tragically harmed by violent crimes. This was about sewing up the loose ends and finding peace. Where it differs from a lot of the movies and stuff that happened in the 80s is the person that also was killed. You're telling this story from the point of a dead man who has to re-engage with his humanity to understand why he needs these people to die, which is ironic. So I love this story. It is one of the crucial turning points for me. I hope it was, I think it was in general. There was a movie made out of it. And then all the reprints and everything came out after the movie came out. A lot of people who saw the movie did not realize that it was a comic book. It was an obscure comic book to begin with.
It was sold as like a vigilante, like action horror kind of thing. And of course, then, because of the tragedy with Brandon Lee, I mean, obviously, when you couple that with the story it's telling, I mean, it took on a whole other level of significance in terms of dealing with tragedy and just what is there beyond what we see in life. And I mean the Crow, what else can you say about it? It hit at the right the story, it's a turning point in comics, and very, very much so in terms of comic book movies in the 90s. I mean, you talk about like comic book movies in the 90s. I mean, this is definitely one of the highlights.
Yeah, definitely. Not like Roger Corman's FF that never got released. What's up? Go ahead.
Where the characters one. Yeah. Weren't there a couple follow-ups to it where they had a few more people and one of them was a woman?
Okay. In the comics, yes, there was. And I know exactly what he's talking about, and I love this story. And if you read this comic, I think it's Kitchen Sink Press put this out. I need to get those back again. I think it's an Indian woman or somebody on a reservation, if I can remember right. And she doesn't look the same. She has makeup on, but it's different. And like I was talking to people a couple of days ago, was the problem with the Crow sequels in the movies is they just tried to redo. Redid Eric Draven again, and that's not what the Crow was. Eric Draven looks like that, and they show it in the comic and they show it exactly in the movie. It's actually a scene for scene where there's a mirror hanging, or there's a mirror and there's a mask with that design, and that's the first thing he sees in his apartment when he crawls out of the grave and crawls up the stairs. That's the first thing he sees in the comic and in the movie, and that's why he chose that design. Each Crow, as they are resurrected, dude, I cannot talk today. As they are resurrected, are take on the image of their environment or what's happened to them or something. It's unique to each person. The only thing common about each Crow is the bird. Is it? And he exists throughout history. So the one he's talking about is actually a great comic book.
And that's I have a friend who's a really big, really enamored with both the comic and the movie, and she's really trepidatious about the remake coming up with Bill Skarsgård. I don't know. It's like watch him in the It movies. I mean, he's such a great Pennywise. He doesn't even need makeup. So, at one point it was also going to have Jason Momoa attached, and I mean, I remember joking with her saying like, the thing about that is it's like he pulled out of it eventually, but the thing Eric Draven, I don't know. It's like I just could have seen him so much more as Top Dollar.
Yeah, and plus, like I said, I have my doubts that this new movie can get, because like somebody mentioned in the chat earlier on, so much about what made the Crow movie what it was the environment that it came out in. It was the height of alternate post grunge alternative music. That soundtrack is one of the greatest, possibly the greatest soundtrack ever done. Brandon Lee dying put a lot of spotlight on the movie that wasn't there. There was just so many things that fell into place for that movie to be a hit. I don't know if you can recreate that. But I'm willing to give this movie a new chance, because you know what? Maybe they'll release a movie that is relevant to this environment that I'm living in right now, and I may enjoy it. So I'm not completely shitting on it, but I'm just you have and it's done already. It just hasn't been released. I can't find a distributor, but I just think they have a hard battle, but it's not an unwinnable battle.
Yeah. And by the way, a little bit of extra trivia for the Crow. Anybody who's not aware of that, after Brandon Lee's tragedy, which, God rest. I mean, I grew up such a fan of Bruce Lee. Still, I mean, of course, I very much with Brandon himself. I mean, following him in Rapid Fire and Shonen Little Tokyo. I mean, he had so much potential that was cut short.
27 years old.
Yeah. It was. It's. I mean, there's the talk about he was the original choice to be Johnny Cage in the '95 Mortal Kombat. I would love to see that performance. That would have been. I think he would have. I mean, I could just see him, at that beginning there with those guys. Like, this is where you fall down.
Yeah, I know.
But getting off of getting off of that. So after his the tragedy befell him on the set, they had like a week left, I think, of filming, and his scenes were completed by a fellow you may have heard of named Chad Stahelski, who trained. He was really close friends with Brandon. He trained with him with Dan Inosanto, who of course was his father, Bruce's close friend and student. And Chad would go on to be
whose daughter, by the way, is on Ahsoka, which will be
exactly, yeah, Diana Lee Santo. And Chad would go on to be a prolific stuntman, stunt coordinator, fight choreographer. He would go on to double for Keanu in the Matrix movies, and would go on to direct him in the John Wick franchise.
Yeah, and he's the way they did that was technology that was still new then, putting his face on the stairs. All right, yes, rest in peace, Brandon Lee, man, 27 years old. What was we touched on that at the beginning of the show. That kind of threw me off, to be honest with you. That just like I said, guys, I have to remind myself too. Like I said, I just got kind of crazy over an article that wasn't even that bad, but that's not life or death. That's not. It really isn't. Like I said, and I made a tweet because I saw it, and I'm so predispositioned because I see Hollywood Reporter and the Wrap, and I'm like, God. And then the headline, and then I did read. There was, like I said, I don't agree with a lot of that article, and I think that article stumbles on itself, but it wasn't as bad as I portrayed it to be. But once again, none of this stuff that we're talking about, strikes. I'll just say, even Brandon Lee, the bringing up of Brandon Lee, 27 years old, literally about to launch his career into the atmosphere and break out from under Bruce Lee's shadow, who died at 33, 32. He was right there. And then they have something like this. And when this thing happened with Alec Baldwin and Russ, I immediately thought
Shannon, his sister, like brought that up. It's like, why is this still happening? This is what happened to my brother.
Yeah, why are we still using? We have CGI. We can put the blame on there. And also, John Eric Hexum, you definitely weren't alive for him. I was.
Okay.
All right, John Eric Hexum was on a show called Voyagers, and he was on a show called Cover Up. I, as a kid, watched these shows because that's all we had. We had 3 channels, and that was on CBS, and I watched them. John Eric Hexum was cool. He was playing in 1984. I've never. This is where I heard the term brain dead for the very first time. He's playing around with a prop gun, and he puts it up to his head, and not realizing that a prop gun blank can still kill you at that range.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that story.
He shot himself in the head, and that is the first time I heard. And I'm 12. Oh no, I'm 9 or 10. I'm 10, and I heard the term brain death, and he was young for that to happen to him. So every time I think of these, there's a handful of people that I think about, and he's one of them. So, all right. So yeah, I love the crow. Yes, that's the right answer. I'm just kidding. Yeah, he did that. That's how I knew. Like I said, I saw Sil Abdul's post, who I guess popped up on my line, but I didn't know if it was. I had no reason to doubt him, but accounts get hacked. People do stuff. But then when I saw it on Robert Meyer Burnett, I'm like, because he knows him. I'm like, wow, And then this week has sucked. Listen, everybody who has these internet beefs with each other, drop them a message or something like that. I don't care how loud you were yelling at somebody on Twitter. If you got them blocked, you got them mute. I don't have anybody blocked, but if you got somebody blocked and you were going at each other over imaginary superheroes and fairies and dragons and everything else, quash it. Because is it having a discussion is what we do. That's fun. But you guys, there's like this particular person involved. There's like this guy had a lot of heat with other sides of fandom. Was that really relevant? Did all these things that we do, and I tried not to do them. I try to stay, I try to do a particular show where we don't do that, and it's almost unavoidable sometimes. But when what's going to happen to me if I have a beef with you, Brad, over some stupid shit, and we never have a chance to discuss that away? I always think of the John Lennon situation. They never got a chance to get over what was probably petty stuff. The same kind of stuff that Aerosmith got over just with time. The same kind of stuff that Megadeth. How many times did they break up the band and Elephant and all that? Right? How many times they had time to get it back, but you're not guaranteed that.
Well, if we do have a falling out, I'm assuming it's going to be over Carl Weathers.
So if I have a falling out with Brad, but like I said, we're joking, but it's any of this stuff, to the level that we put it ahead of, hey, let's have a conversation. You don't know who Carl Weathers is? I think that's blasphemy. But guess what? What's the next topic? You see what I mean? When we see each other again, we don't have to agree that you should know who Carl Weathers is, you un-American. We don't have to.
I know who I just didn't discover Apollo at the same time as everyone else.
But the disagreement does not have to be the focal point of our existence. We can disagree. There's plenty of people online I just don't agree with. I fundamentally don't agree. I don't hate them. I don't have them blocked. I'm not going to put them on my thumbnail and go after them. We just don't agree with that. What's the next topic? Because guess what? And I learned this by being overseas in a place that they told us, hey, by the way, do you have your SGLI, which is the Serviceman's Life and Group Insurance? Do you have your, before you get on the plane to go to that other desert that's not Las Vegas, do you have all your affairs ordered? How do you want to be buried? Who do you want to leave your shit to? So you're dealing with that kind of questions. All of a sudden, the other stuff was like, wow, is the food bad? Yeah, okay. You see what I mean? I'm not saying that these things don't matter and people's feelings don't matter, but I'm just saying put them in the context of just, holy cow, this has been a crappy week. Not so much with, like I said, Bob Barker. Hey, rest in peace, homie. You got 100 years, man.
Yeah, and you kicked Happy Gilmore's ass in that period.
Yeah. Bray Wyatt got 36 years. I don't know how old Mikey Sutton was, but I know he was too young to be dead.
Yeah.
Arlene Sorkin's 67 years old. That's not that old. That's not these days. If you don't have any mitigating circumstances, that's not that old. Terry Funk lived a very hard life. And I thought that several times that Terry Funk was on his deathbed, and he ended up living 3 or 4 more years. But he's 80 years old. He's got great grandchildren. He's got these things, that you can look at and say he had as good as run. And he even said it when he was doing interviews after some of his near-death experiences. He had as good as run. He regrets nothing. Because at 80, you can say that. At 99, you can say that. 36, man, 50, 67. Like I said, let's have fun. Have fun.
Yeah, and we've definitely got plenty of that in our topics this evening, except for maybe one, the two that kind of bookend it.
Yeah, Mikey just turned 60 a couple of weeks ago. That's too young to be gone. And I don't know that crowd well enough to know his health. I know somebody told me that he had health issues and stuff like that. But 60, man, 60. Wow,
that's too young.
Yeah. So rest in peace, everybody. Rest and not just like I said. If I don't know who you are and we haven't met and you lost somebody today, you lost somebody this week, and you just happen upon my show, whether it's today or years down the line, my condolences to you too. You matter. We only focus on sometimes on the celebrity death, and we don't realize that the cycle is everywhere. The cycle goes for the people don't know. I mean, it just everybody is somebody. And I think, yes. A lot of people are still finding this out. So, Brad gets through stressed out. like I said, and I lose my mind sometimes, but mostly I'm just full of hot air. When you see me go on a rant, be honest with you, it's once I go off, I mean, daylight savings. By the way, woohoo!
Yeah. When is that? That's like early November, right?
Yes, and we are gonna celebrate. Damn it, we are gonna celebrate. We're gonna celebrate with streamers. We're gonna celebrate with. I don't. I will find a way to celebrate the exact opposite that you saw me at 6 months ago when we were all robbed. I'm gonna give it back and happy. But like I said, when I go on, it's mostly fun. It's like I'm not seriously,
I've seen guys.
Article. Yeah,
I've seen other guy. I won't name any names, but I've seen people who was like can, yeah, really blow a gasket over like over Cape shit. So it's like, come on, back it up.
I am not happy at certain aspects of it, but
we clearly aren't.
Time it's put in because it's like it's still fun. You're ruining my fun sometimes, but I can find other things, so I do my best. I have to catch myself every now and then, but at the same time, I just don't. I started the environment that I am to carry on a conversation with people and carry that conversation through, not the highlights of the conversation. Like Brad doesn't like Carl Weathers. That's a highlight. That's like a headline, right? The same thing with the article. For the third time, when I read that article through, and then I read it in contact with some of the posts I'm seeing, I'm like, okay, I still got problems with it. But if me and Richard Newby were sitting here having a conversation, we would be having it in a respectful tone. And when we were done with that conversation, we're going to get up and walk out and maybe meet each other again. That's the kind of conversation I want. We're not going to agree on everything. But man, it's just too short. It's too short out here to be and life is hard, not just physically, and mentally. Dude, we're all in a fucking quagmire these days. So yeah, I do my best. And like I said, I'm not perfect, but I at least put in things into our content that if I feel myself going this way, I got a robot with antlers I could drift to and on my thumbnail. So here we go. All right, so let's see. All right, so yeah, the crow. The crow. It's funny that the happiest, not the happiest, but the most entertaining thing for me is about death with that. And the crow is about death, but it's not just about death. And I think J.O. Barr was really, when he did his interview with when he was at Comic-Con, he wanted to make sure that that it wasn't just about the violent death. That was the vessel that the storyline was told through. It was about redemption and about the cycle of life and appreciating life in general. So that's where the crow, maybe that's the perfect topic that we actually need tonight.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about that other thing. All right, the old Dune's being delayed till March 15th. All right. Okay. What else is God damn it. I'm gonna get, you know what? My next investment is in a light that actually hooks up to something that I can't knock over. We knew that this was coming. I'm not even pulling up the article.
When I saw the news break, I mean, my thought immediately went to, it's like, you had talked about it enough, and I know he's probably gonna cry himself to sleep tonight.
Damn it!
But I mean, we saw it coming, and it's like it ties into one of the thumbnail elements anyway.
So yeah, the strike is what it is. We had some movement, but in my opinion, it's not in the direction.
We had movement, but it was movement it was running in place, it seems.
They still don't want to open up their books, and I know why. Of course, they don't want to open.
Oh yeah, in fact, let me go ahead and pull up the thing I sent you earlier. Where we were kind of the little blurb out of the rap article that we were talking about earlier.
Can you add stuff to me, or do I need to do that for you? Hold on.
I think you might need to do that for me.
Hold on, I got you. Yeah, I'm opening up my messages and I'm getting a bunch of Mikey Sutton pass. I'm like I said, we're still absorbing all this in real time, guys. All right, the Chio Hideri Coker one. Oh, that was okay.
Well, the article that's his response to it, but and this is the rap article, and the tweet above it says,
I got it. Here
the WGA says the AMPTP's current offer only allows 6 WGA staffers to view, quote, limited streaming viewership data, and, quote, no writer can be told by the WGA about how well the project is doing. And I think you and I are in total agreement that that's some bullshit.
Why would you could not have presented that in person without laughing.
Again, it's what I've been saying over and over. It's like they just keep saying the quiet part loud.
And this is what leads me back to the whole Peacemaker thing and the whole Zack Snyder's Justice League thing. Like, I'm not knocking the quality of Peacemaker, and I'm not knocking that it may have done well, but I don't know. If I can't get verifiable numbers of how Zack Snyder's Justice League did, why would I believe you about anything else? You're basically telling me, and these guys are doing this. They are basically they're releasing info that allows their narrative to be supported. So if you put your job on the line and you greenlit Peacemaker when you didn't know how Suicide Squad was going to be, and Suicide Squad bombs, and you want to make yourself look good in front of the stockholders and your bosses, Peacemaker did great. Well, where's the number? I got these numbers here and I get these numbers here. I don't get the raw data.
And if you fought tooth and nail against Zack Snyder's Justice League being released and you wanted to paint a certain narrative another way, we don't get the full numbers on that.
And where this affects the labor thing is the fact that, okay, if I'm doing a bang up job and I deserve more money, now my defense as a corporation, well, we're not making it. Okay, well then, you know what? You got to show me. You got to tell me what in order for you to go against a collecting and bargaining agreement and tell me, that you can't afford these increases, you need to be negotiating in good faith. And how can you negotiate in good faith when I can't see the numbers? And that's a big part.
And there was absolutely nothing good faith about that offer. Where it's like you can see we get that we get this select group of people to see the numbers, and they don't get to tell anybody what the numbers. It's like, I mean, how can you be this transparent in your? Like I said,
you're literally saying I'm stupid. Is what I am, and I want you to accept this. So, and here's another thing this is of large importance, because if they have to show these numbers, they take away a lot of their artistry as far as they can't tell you, okay, so if a movie bombs and I'm a stockholder and I'm concerned about, you making another one of these, your vanity projects, and you tell me, well, no, it's doing great on streaming and here's goes our, this, that, but I'm going to need to see those numbers, and you can't, shape the narrative like they would. Like I said, they could easily say Zack Snyder's Justice League was a failure and that it didn't do all that great. It was not a big deal. And they can control that narrative in the light that there's no numbers to refute that. That's going to lead to a lot of projects being made or not made. How can you say, how can you determine the viability of anything that you have planned, especially a franchise or an IP, when you're not being truthful about the numbers? Not only are you're taking, are you not showing those numbers to your investors? The people who fronted the money, are they one of the people that gets to sit in the room? You see
it sounds like they're not, from the sound of that. And what you mentioned earlier, with Mr. Chio Hoderi Coker, which for those of you who don't know, he was the showrunner on Luke Cage on Netflix. He quote tweeted that thing about the rap we just read, and what he said was, Luke Cage was the first debut show to ever break. It means by the interrupt service on Netflix. When Stranger Things did it, they were on their 4th season. I've never gotten our numbers, and I doubt the Duffer Brothers did either.
Wow.
And Stranger Things, I mean, we can, because of just how much it's in the zeitgeist, so we can just infer that is a big hit just because of the presence that it has. I mean, that's without even getting hard numbers, but we know the numbers are great even without seeing them.
Not necessarily, because if they were both at home. If I had, I'm watching them both. If I'm at home, I'm watching them both. My numbers shouldn't be affected by that. I'm not going to stop. One came out clearly before. I get to watch one, and the other one came out later.
It almost happened where it's like both were on the same day, and it's like, I mean, there were so many points leading up to it and immediately after where it was so transparent they were trying to undercut it.
Exact opposite for us, and we don't know this, hobbies. Neither one of us have proof, but I don't think they don't want to open up their numbers because those numbers are way high, and they're going to have to. These greedy bastards are going to have to give up more money.
I mean, look at the way they just put it right there. The way we. I'm going to read it off again. WGA says AMPTP's current offer only allows 6 writers to view limited stream. I mean, just the way that, I mean, even that.
You can't even finish the sentence without laughing.
I mean, they're limiting the people who can see the data, and they're limiting the data they're seeing, and they can't report the data they're seeing to the people that the data concerns. I mean, it's like how do you present a cover up more transparently than that?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna answer this real quick, and then we're gonna jump into GNR. William, have you seen Barbarian? Unfortunately, yes. I watched it last night and realized that Bill Skarsgård is going to be a great as a girl. I think he's just a great actor. I think he'll do great. I just don't know if I'm not knocking the movie itself. I'm knocking, is this going to work given so much of the atmosphere? He could probably give a knockout job, and I'm going to give it a shot. But I looked up news about it and then saw the day that you did too. The same time. I did not like Barbarian. I thought that was one of those cop-out horror movies that, it's just like, how you doing, Larry? How you doing? I will always want to say hi to Larry here.
But everything we're just saying right there about the story, I mean, again, that's part of that's why William has to wait another 5 months to see Dune 2, because they don't want to open the books on this, and it has a snowball effect on the release calendar.
And if the strike's not over, and the reason why they don't want to do this is they don't want to sabotage another movie by not having press. It could move to the summer, dude. I was like,
it actually occurred to me and this might sound a little bit hyperbolic, but I did want to kind of put it to you on. Do you think the strike could last a year?
It could. I mean,
if that's their attitude about opening the books on streaming data, I mean, it's like, 2 months ago I would have said no. It's like it could go on a long time, but I don't think a year. It's like, if that's the way if that's how much they're digging their heels in on this, I mean, who the hell knows?
And they're waiting. The studios are waiting for the actors and people who are running out of money. But here's the thing that could happen: is you could start forming alliances of certain sizes, I believe, outside of the people that are in this group, that are represented in this group. People who are not beholden to the union or are part of this collective bargaining agreement. You could start seeing independents, not indies, not like, low budget, things that'll bomb. You could start seeing major actors either form their own alliances or join ones that are not. So say, for instance, I like a Trauma. I'm not saying that, I'm just throwing that out there, as Trauma is not connected with this situation. They can continue to make and promote movies. I believe there are other smaller studios out there that fall under, that are not part of the
A24. They're I believe they're still allowed to go ahead and kind of proceed business as usual.
So even though A24 is not the biggest budgeted thing at that, guess what? If they start getting money coming their way, they start getting actors that are producers, coming their way. You have Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, who have their own production company. You have Zack Snyder. I'm just bringing them up. People who have their own production companies. You might see these guys start to form alliances, and it may take 2 or 3 of them to get together to make a big budget movie. But if this lasts that long, I think you may have the effect of forming other ways to make money for these guys. And then in that case, that would weaken the AMP, whatever their acronym is, because now they lose a lot of their leverage. Because if the actors in places, the actors and other self-made people can go there, guess what? The catering guy can be on that set. The bit actor who's not the Tom Cruise, now he has somewhere to go. So if your membership starts to fall into that, you don't have that kind of power. It's no longer my way or the highway. They'll be like, okay, I want to work with you because this is where I've been, and this is but guess what? A24 is doing this thing over there, and I need to pay my rent.
I mean, they got a lot of prestige after Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, they
Academy Award. So it could last a year, but I think that if that starts to happen, what I laid out starts to happen, I think you're going to start seeing some movement. But right now, we're just it could, right where we're at right now. Yeah, it could last a year. I can't believe I said that out loud and didn't.
Yeah, well, I can't believe they said this stuff out loud. So, but here we are.
Dune did excellent on streaming, from what I can tell. And the only reason I know that is I was the guy who was promoting it. His job is judged by how well, because we didn't just promote Dune on. In fact, speaking of Dune, Let's make me happy about Dune instead of sad.
Well, it did like 400 something million theatrically, so I mean it navigated that day and date model pretty well, and they came out like right after. And started off to the opposite thing she did with the ZSJL was she came out right after it said, yeah, it's like we structured this to be a two-parter. It's like we're moving all ahead on the Dune universe, right?
48 by 36. I love this poster. I have it in my store. I just got it framed up again today. Makes me happy. This is the original Dune. We didn't just promote Dune in the theaters, though. We at the time, all those movies that came out, we were promoting them for the HBO Max and theaters. So we were all being fed in on those numbers as far as the front leaning numbers go. As much as we got, and Dune did well enough in the theaters, and they weren't sure. They weren't sure, but once they got all the numbers back and it made its money in the theaters, that's when they greenlit it. I think they should have known that they had a hit with Denny, Academy Award nominated guy, two-time Academy Award nominated guy coming in, but they waited, and that's fine. But if they had shot it out at the same time, they probably still wouldn't be releasing it yet because they don't want to release it without being put on a press circuit. Though, is it true that the guild is asking for just less?
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Here's a problem with that, though. What they're asking for is reasonable, but if it's all about precedent. Once they give anything and open up the door a little bit, you're going to see more than just what you're looking for. You're going to see all the shady stuff.
I am waiting for that. I want that. Like I said, I want that Pandora's box to be open. It's like I want like all the suppressed viewership, and I mean not just for we're fixating obviously a lot on Zack Snyder's Justice League, but I mean tons of other people are getting screwed. It's like I want that to come out. I want people who have had blockades on stuff they wanted to move ahead with, or people who are getting cheated out of residuals. Like I want all that to come out, and I want that to be such a day of reckoning.
Or people lying about going forward with certain IPs while you're giving me IPs that no one knows about, and then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. How long till the strike starts to hurt studios? I'd say about another 3 months.
Yeah.
Out all that Christmas money.
Yeah. We have one thing that maybe if they got a theater run, could generate some good revenue for them. But
yeah, even if they got to give up a lot of it. All right. So my next topic. All right. So we've covered. We'll cover a little bit more Rebel Moon towards the end. We've covered. Covered The Crow, we covered WJ Saga. I was so glad when I don't have to put that in my damn thumbnail anymore, and I put Dune right over it too. This pissed me off. All right, so in 1987, which was before Brad was born. What year were you born?
I was born in 87.
What? Okay, so this album is literally as old as you are.
Yeah,
but I was alive to enjoy it. So there. Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction is one of the most successful rock metal albums, glam rock, whatever the hell you want to call it. It was Guns N' Roses' breakthrough album. For a band like Guns N' Roses, who did not have that many, that didn't comparatively didn't release as much as like other bands have. You have other bands that are reaching their 10th release. How many did Guns N' Roses release? What's their
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna pull them up right now.
Yeah, I got them. Discography. Ooh, you probably find it quicker than me.
Yeah, they have one.
All right,
six albums.
Six albums in 35 years. But guess what? Between the album in question that we're talking about today and Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, still some damn good albums.
Oh yeah, Guns N' Roses. I mean, that's like, and this is another, kind of telling myself, it's like I kind of discovered them through Terminator 2, but I think a lot of people did. I mean,
well, yeah, you could be mine. Is that
exactly?
That's when they did soundtracks for movies instead of just sound scores. So here is the initial. This is the one you could buy in the stores when I was a kid, because I bought this first at the BX. So for those of you who don't know what that is, at the military store, it's a basic exchange.
Oh, I know that well from my dad's background.
Yeah. And this is the one you got. This was the one that was on all the T-shirts. This is the one you see. There's a He-Man one with Skeletor on it. You see anything with 5 members on it or whatever, a lot of them mimic this shirt. And the members of the band, obviously, you see Slash, Duff McKagan, Steven Adler, Axl Rose, and you see all that Appetite for Destruction. This was a big album. Um, in my opinion, every song on this album is about drugs or prostitution. And it's going to be different from anybody else. Everybody else is going to look at it and say, William, what are you talking about? What do you, that's not true. You know, everybody has terms, you know, but I am going to go down the discography and you tell me. Okay.
Oh, no, Paradise City. I mean, come on. I already put the dots together on that.
And now I was a kid. I was 13 and I got this. Except for Mr. Brownstone. I didn't get that one until later on in life. Welcome to the Jungle. That's the breakthrough. That's the one. That's Welcome to the, I mean, everybody was on that.
Oh yeah.
All right. It's So Easy. You listen to the lyrics of It's So Easy. It's about, in my opinion, being a rock star and it being easy to get any drug you want. That's how I interpret it. Now, somebody else could be like, no, William, it's about getting girls and sex. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, sure. Night Train, same thing. Night Train is about, you know, getting, you know, not going all night on benders out and drugs and alcohol. Mr. Brownstone, which, like I said, I didn't realize that Brownstone was a euphemism or, you know, was a metaphor for heroin until later in life. And when you listen to Mr. Brownstone, I get up around 7. Used to get up around 9, but that old man's got, I mean, you know, I used to do a little, but a little wouldn't do it, so a little got more and more. That's about a heroin addiction. I didn't, like I said, 13-year-old me at that point didn't realize that. Obviously, Paradise City goes without saying. Sweet Child of Mine, in my opinion, was about a girl drifting into, you know, drugs and prostitution. But if you watch Welcome to the Jungle, just a video, you see it. Rocket Queen is about both. One of the greatest Guns N' Roses songs besides Coma, in my opinion, Rocket Queen. It's basically 2 songs in once, and in my opinion, that's about all the above. But that was the 80s. You could do it. I mean, Eric Clapton, you know, Cream had a sound called Cocaine, so nobody cared about that one. But this was the album cover that you got to see in stores. Now, the album one that I saw in the mall at Sam Goodies, and this was back when albums, I know you don't know what these are, and most of my audience doesn't, had the one that I did not get to see at the base, and I censored it here a little bit because I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. The Robot, and this is the one that got heavily censored, and you couldn't buy this one in certain places. But when you bought the album, they didn't put this on the front one, but when you opened up the cassette or the thing, this was the inside cover. And you clearly see a woman down there in states of undress. I've covered up, you know, with the little spots that, you know, things that would get us thrown off, but there you go. This was big because you were right in the middle of the hairband groups. You were right in the middle of 70s era 70-era rock band just getting older, you know, the hard rock, the AC/DCs were all entering different stages of their career where they didn't necessarily make that connection with the kids of that era. Guns N' Roses was hair, but they were harder edge. Like, to me, like the Motley Crues and all of that, they weren't, in my opinion, is singing about this type of stuff that Guns N' Roses was. And they weren't doing it with the edge that they were doing it with. And once you got past the whole glam rock and Axl's hair and all that crazy stuff, and you actually opened up your tape thing and read those lyrics, even for a 13-year-old me, were hard hitting. They were more heavy metal than they were rock. And Slash, as a guitarist, was something I had not heard, and I had heard a lot by then. And to this day, Slash is one of the most unique guitarist. What he did with that Gibson in this album, Sweet Child of Mine, the opening, that's one of the most unique openings to a song that I can think of, other than Carrot Rock by Smashing Pumpkins, or For Those About to Rock by AC/DC. There's a handful of songs that the opening puts you in a different place and you instantly recognize it. And he did those things. Even with the song that you're aware of, You Could Be Mine. That opening riff, that's what he did. And it's like, this album was great. So Wow.
And great, great little anybody who might have missed it in Terminator 2, little Easter egg that camera worked in when John's running from the T-1000 and he sees Arnold, and Arnold pulls his shotgun out of the box full of roses. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. That song, guy. And that was on the Terminator 2 soundtrack, but it was actually on Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, which was an awesome release. By the way. So all right. So that's all I got to say about that one. I really can't discuss that with you because, like I said, you were.
Guns N' Roses. Yeah, they were. I mean, I grew up with them.
But you know who they are.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's like rock fans like you can't miss Guns N' Roses, and yes, I mean, I think we covered. Yeah,
I wasn't alive when they were at the height, or their biggest height. So, but I know who they are. Listen here, man. I can't stand the way glam metal looked, but there were certain bands in that era that went beyond the look.
Twisted Sister, come on, man.
They looked the way that they looked because that's what MTV wanted. That's what was selling. But if you go listen to Use Your Illusion, either 1 or 2. Listen to Coma. Listen to November. Listen to that's a band that had to wear the glam rock costume to get where they wanted to get to. But wow, Slash is one of the greatest living guitarists, one of the greatest guitarists of all time.
Damn right.
And especially lead. I mean, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Guns and Flowers.
Oh, come on.
Geez, Larry, Daniel. Oh yeah, honestly, him and William are my Go comics experts, and funny enough, they have completely different opinions on who is he talking about?
He's talking about me and William.
No. Who are you talking about, Larry? That has a different opinion. I mean, a lot of people have a different opinion. Oh, comic tropes. Okay, I have not heard of comic. I heard of them. I have never been to their site.
I
gotta realize
I've heard of them too. Yeah.
Yeah, that cover, like I said, I was years later in life to where I went and got a chance because they kept that cover like at Sam Goody behind, so that you saw the top of it, but you couldn't see the woman because her breasts are exposed. That's why that was the biggest thing.
Yes, when I was growing up, it's like the ones that were pushing the envelope. In my generation were the covers on Korn.
Oh yeah, but by that time, we had broken through the old.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, they had a very input. They're still going, by the way. But it's just that for the amount of time that they've been around, to only have yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was so silly. We originally, most people did, but like I said, when I started looking, and like I said, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a way to Google like, what's brownstone? That's the one I didn't know about. But the other ones, I got a feeling. I mean, I was growing up in the LA area and all that, and that was big. They were in LA, and prostitution was really big at the time, and a lot of people were singing about it. But Bach, Guns N' Roses, all hail the bigger lowercase flaming N. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, I remember those. My cousin had a massive flag, cloth poster of GNR or the New Woman album. Yeah, I mean, like I said, and nowadays it's nothing. It's no big deal. I know if I put it on my YouTube channel, he showed a nipple, I'm reporting him. I don't feel like getting kicked off. I mean, I was lucky enough not to get kicked off when we did our thing the other night with
we were really we were nervous there. For those of you who know, our Rebel Moon trailer breakdown, which we'll be getting to that in a little bit here.
Oh my god. Yeah, you know what? That's not a bad comparison. It sounds silly when you say it, but he could reach Axl Rose. Oh, full disclaimer.
Yeah, he had range.
He has range recorded. You see him live. I don't think he sounds as good live. I've seen him 3 times live, and I saw him at the height of his career during the Use Your Illusion tour with Guns N' Roses, Motorhead, Metallica. Everybody else sounded great. He just doesn't. There's a lot of tuning that goes into. He sounds awesome on when on the record. And I guess that's because when you go to Guns N' Roses concerts, I'm being a stickler. You're there because you're this close to Guns N' Roses. You saw them live. Like I said, I didn't give a fuck. I didn't give a rat's ass how Lemmy sounded when I saw Motorhead. I'm going to be able to tell people 20, 30 years from now who did not appreciate Lemmy while he was living that I saw that guy. I don't care if he sounded like the Cookie Monster. It didn't matter. I was in the same stadium as Lemmy, as Motorhead. And I admire the hell. Like I said, I have a utmost respect for that guy. Some of the things he said, some of the things he did, how he carried himself, in my opinion, he's a class act. And like I said, we lost a great one when he died. All right, let's skip to some of these because we still got to get. We've moved relatively. Yeah, I was in San Bernardino, LA area. But like I said, I was the dummy that came along late because how this is how I found out, right? It's 13 years old. I just heard the song. Now I'm in my memorization stage, and we've been dancing with Mr. And my teacher was like, excuse me? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And I stopped singing that lyric, and I sang other lyrics from it. She's like, excuse me again? I'm like, do you have any idea what you're singing about? Yeah, it's a Guns N' Roses song. I thought Chris Brownstone, I'm 13, and I'm smart in some ways, but not necessarily putting it all together in others. I thought Brownstone was the apartment buildings in New York. I'm like, this guy's trying to, I'm an idiot now, 30-something years later, but I'm like, I don't see any problem with that. And she enlightened me on what Mr. Brownstone was, and I'm like, okay, I figured out the rest of this album was about drugs and rock and roll. I didn't know that was not heroin. So,
well, we've all been there, like using adult terms before before we're ready to, and discovering that in very awkward ways.
Yeah, I was 13. I'm like, oops. She was betting and talking to my parents, like, what are you letting your kid listen to? I'm like, well, we had the drug, we had the don't say no and Nancy Reagan conversation, but we didn't get the heroin.
Well, and how long before this was before like Tipper Gore started her whole kind of crusade? They got the advisory.
It was right into that and then it got bad with the whole me so horny and all that other stuff. Yes, Dan and Martin, 100%. It is the best album they released. I like a lot of songs on Use Your Illusion. Coma is to me one of the best songs ever made. It's a long song to get through. But Appetite for Destruction. I mean, hit after hit after hit after hit after hit, man. Thrash metal, death metal, melodic death metal. Ooh, yes. What were my favorite genre in your late teens that transitioned to from mainstream rock? Yeah, and then that got stripped down and became grunge, and then you lost a lot of your solos. I think grunge had its place. The power chord movement, because that's one of the things you didn't get in metal. You had power chords as a rhythm, but you didn't have power chords as your lead. What grunge gave you was power chords as your lead and your rhythm. And post-grunge with Weezer and Nirvana and Bush, and people are saying, oh, you can only play power. Listen, if you know what the hell you're doing, power chords can make a lot of money for you. And those bands in the mid-'90s, they did it. So I was happy. Yeah, Judas Priest. Yeah, they were saying when you played them backwards that they said, the devil and all this stuff like
that. I love that story.
I didn't like that album. I did not like that album. I don't even. I guess I should acknowledge it, but it was more of it was kind of like Saint Anger from Metallica. Yeah, if you come to my city on tour and promoting Spaghetti Incident, I'm gonna go because you know what. Your ass better be playing Paradise City. You better be playing Sweet Child of Mine. You better be playing Mr. Brownstone. You better be playing You Could Be Mine. And if you play some shit from Spaghetti Incident, okay, if I'm close enough to the outhouse, that's where I'm going to spend the time for that song. But same thing with Metallica. If you come in for Saint Anger and all that, and with Load and all that other stuff, and you want to sing, The Memory Remains or whatever like that, great. But your ass better be playing Seek and Destroy. You better be playing One. You better be playing Master Puppets. You better. If I'm there and I paid money and you don't play Injustice for All, we're going to have a problem. So the only thing good about some of these other albums is that they tour and they go and support and you get a chance to see them. You play your one song from your little shitty release and you better pay your catalog. I don't care if you want to be experimental and all this. That's great. You know, AC/DC, you know, when they were towards the end of their careers, or towards the heart of their career, they wanted to be experimental. Great, go for it. But you know what? Show up to Vegas and don't play for those about to rock. All right, show up to Vegas and don't play Back in Black. You know, so yeah. Even though the Razor's Edge, by the way, was my favorite overall album for them, and that's late. That didn't come out till '90. All right, let's see. Yeah, Judas. If you were listening to Judas Priest and you looked at those album covers, granted they weren't guilty of the shit that people were trying to say they were, but you had to know that you were in for some hardcore stuff.
Big time, yeah.
All right. So how you doing, Jeeves? What's going on? William was the reason why Dare was invented. I may have been invented. I didn't know. I'm sorry. My 13-year-old me didn't know what heroin was. Well, I knew what heroin was because of John Belushi, but I didn't know the nicknames of heroin at 13. Sorry. You know, the Two Live Crew. Yeah. Whoa, man. Their album covers are getting them in trouble. Yeah, and that's fine. A lot of people like it. It sold a lot of albums, but you know. All right. Would you like? Did you like Dio's albums of Black Sabbath? Oh yes, yes. Rainbow, everything he did. I still think the best album overall for Black Sabbath is Heaven and Hell. The best song, Black Sabbath ever did was Children of the Sea. I'll put that. I'll fight any Black Sabbath fan that wants to give me any Ozzy or any other Dio Sabbath song. I will put Children of the Sea. That sound, that guitar, Tony Iommi's. Oh, I'm going to listen to that tonight when to bring my heart rate down. I'm going to listen to that song. I love that song. I heard that song earlier in life, only by accident because we were driving through an area and my dad couldn't get the kind of music he wanted to, and he didn't want to drive without it. And I heard that song in like '85. And I'm like, what is this? And remember, there was no YouTube or anything to go to find this. And the old man at that time was not buying me Black Sabbath. So I had to listen to it on my own little radio when it would come on. And it had been out for 3 or 4 years at that time. So Dio, man, we lost him too soon.
Yeah.
We lost him too soon. And the fact that, you know, they had started touring and I never got to see them on tour. Because of my age when he was with Black Sabbath, and you know when he was touring with Heaven and Hell, the tickets were way too expensive for me at that time, and then he died in 2010, 2011, and it just sucked. But Dio was better. I get a lot of heat. Yes, Sammy was better than David Lee Roth, and Dio was better than Ozzy. I said it. Go ahead and light me up in the comment section if you want to. You want to light me up on Twitter. You want to tell me in person that I'm a heathen. I said it right here. Dio was better. Sammy was better. All right.
I bet the comments are a war zone now.
Cheer me up, man. They're gonna rip me. They're gonna find ways to rip me up anyway over the night. So, William, would you pick a comic for all of us? Did you do dramatic reading with some dramatic music? Shoot! Well, The Crow's already been done with its own master. Would you pick a comic and all of us to do a dramatic reading with some dramatic reading? I mean,
yeah, do 300. How about that?
I could do 300. Watchmen already has them. Yeah, I could do 300. I would do 300 with Heaven and Hell. Oh, Age of Apocalypse with Injustice for All. Yeah. You go. You started me down a road. I could continue on forever. All right, so let's get to what else I got. I covered all the thumbnails. Rebel Moon.
Which Moon. For those of you, you may have seen us. We were doing a trailer breakdown right after it dropped, and like I said, we ran into a little bit of a snag, month during the Netflix that. It's like we're covering that. It's like midstream. They say no, you can't do that, so we had to recover from that. We were a little bit nervous, but like, can we pull the trailer or not? And went ahead and went for it. Went off without a hitch, and so yeah, if you want to see us kind of like break the trailer down, like one step at a time, but I mean, I think a few days since, I mean, it's like I have seen this trailer God knows how many times, and it's just I mean, this has got to be the most gorgeous movie that's upcoming at the moment.
Yeah, the big topic, and I was in a chat room, going back and forth with those guys and on Baka stream the other night. And I listen, for those of you guys who want to see this on the big screen, I sympathize with you. I understand. You give me any frame of that trailer, I want to see it on the largest format. But if we never see it, I understand. It is what Netflix sells. You were asking Netflix to send you somewhere else for the only thing that they have to sell. And yeah, they can make a little bit of change, but the theaters get some, and all other things involved, and that you're not selling the theater experience. You're not see the differences of Warner Brothers and so all these other ones. They have different ways to get you entertainment. Warner Brothers owns cable companies, they own theaters, and that's what they do. That is part of their business model, is sending movies to the theater and all kinds of that. And they have channels they can recycle their money. If it doesn't do well, they own the physical media. Netflix doesn't do any of that. Netflix is out of physical media. They have one thing to sell, and you're asking them to put a huge thing that gets them subscribers on a format that is not theirs. That is not their mission. Their mission is to get you to subscribe and stay subscribed, not to send you to a theater.
Now, one thing I would ask there, because there has been some discussion about since Dune 2 moved, that could Rebel Moon, because theaters, I mean, and more stuff is going to move. I mean, that's just, guys, brace yourself. There's going to be more delays coming up, because especially with the stuff we were talking about earlier. There's going to be more delays out of the strike.
More expensive, the more likely it's going to get moved, because they're not going to want to invest that money.
Yeah.
And then in Blue Beetle,
yeah,
have anybody George Lopez get on TV. So we're going to have some movement.
But there's been some discussion that with the scale and the blockbuster level, the blockbuster level presentation of Rebel Moon. It's I mean, that definitely would be an enticing thing for theater owners to want to have, with a dearth of content they're going to be, experiencing fairly shortly. So there's been talk about with Dune 2 moving, and now certainly with other things they're going to move. Would that be an opening, like a viable opening for Rebel Moon to have some kind of a theater run, especially with the holidays coming up?
I don't. They would love it. They would eat it up in a heartbeat. But I don't. Now look at it from the Netflix side. Yeah, the theaters are taking a heartbeat, but the theaters. Here's the thing, that the problem with that, and I pointed this out yesterday, is when you put a movie in the theaters, the studio does the paying for the promotion. So they're paying for the promotion, and they're giving up 33 to 35%. So now studios can do that. Warner Brothers can do that. Sony can do that. Paramount can do that. Columbia, all those can do that because of the diversity of their revenue streams, and they have more ways to make money and absorb that brunt. Netflix has one thing to sell. Can they take that brunt? And not only are they taking that brunt, they're literally sending you somewhere else when their job is to get you into their system and keep you there. So I want to see this on this. This would be a crime, but I understand.
Yeah, it's like I want to see it on the screen. I saw Dune, the first one on, and with what you're saying too about as far as Netflix's revenue model is, they don't have as many fingers in the pie as other studios do. Ironically enough, Rebel Moon itself is that's kind of the exception to that rule because of all the ancillary things that Zach is setting up with the novelizations, with the video game, with all these tie-ins. So with Rebel Moon,
he gets that though. He gets that money directly. Stone Quarry gets that money, but Netflix, the studio, may not necessarily get the. And once again, they're even if they got some of it, they're cutting it up, so they're getting diminishing returns. To put it in a format that they don't that's not beneficial for them, unless now they're going to put it in limited release because you're going to want those tech Oscars. But
and this is is this you can already tell this is worthy,
especially without Dune. Oh man,
this should clean up on tech Oscars this year.
At least if it gets one or two, that's man. By the way, fourth, you know what, dude? You put this idea in my head, and the first thing before I did my Patreon, I would have said I can't do that. I'll get sued. I'll get taken off. But we can do private streams, and we can have Black Sabbath playing in the background to 300, and not get in any trouble. Thank you, Fourth. You know what? I knew if I kept you around long enough, you would.
That changed your Avi.
All right, so yeah, by the way, the what someone told me, and I know you saw this too, where they said it's like Star Wars with sex and violence.
Yeah,
And
well,
cut work.
that's a truncated version of something Zach said about it.
Dude, I was already in. I was already there, and now
Yeah, you're telling us, yeah, say it like it's a bad thing.
I was already. You had me at just the trailer alone, and I've been waiting for
You
this
had me
movie.
on Antler Dude in the thumbnail there.
Yeah, that dude, I love it. I got to get that figure. Like I think I told you the other night.
Oh,
Next Comic Con, I'm gonna literally have to be ducking and shit because everybody's gonna have
this,
that.
and this is something I thought about too after we did the trailer breakdown. And this is another thing with it kind of going back to the DC frustration that fans are feeling is, and something I've written about also with Zach's his JL sequels is one of the things that where Warner Brothers has really sold themselves short on, not thought long term, is, I mean, look at the Nightmare. It's like how much just merchandise that you can do out of the Nightmare with Todd McFarlane, how much he cashed in, and I mean, like Batman, it's like, when I was a kid, it's like, the Batman movies come out, you would have like all these different variations of his costume. I mean, all this is baked into the Nightmare with like all the different, just crazy off the wall stuff you could do in the Nightmare, and how much they just cut off their nose to spite their face on that.
Yeah.
And with Rebel Moon, it's the same thing. It's like, I mean, I can't even imagine the action figures that you can pull out of this.
He's got to be on the phone with Todd McFarlane about
oh, hell yeah.
Got to be on the phone. All right, Azteca. Let me see am I about to ban you, Azteca? Don't you tell me. Black Sabbath's top 5 albums are Master of Reality, Heaven and Hell, Sabotage, Paranoid, and Okay, you got the right 5 albums. Actually, no, you don't. No, you left out Mob Rules. You're banned. You left you. Oh, you know what? And I liked you, Azteca. No, I'm just kidding. For me, I'm adding Mob Rules. I'm adding Heaven and Hell's number 1. I'm adding Mob Rules. It's got to be number 2. It's got to be number 2. What am I? I have to take Paranoid off. Boy, I'm gonna. If I put Black Sabbath in the hashtags and there's some other Black Ozzy fans, they're gonna tear me apart. That's fine. It's all subjective. But I'm not. There's no top list of Black Sabbath without Mob Rules. There's just not.
Yeah.
There's just not.
Yeah,
sorry.
I agree.
That's my opinion. Put a disclaimer down here for all you guys. There's so much in this stream to tear me up over. And like I said, either I don't have any comments or I have someone that says, "You're an idiot." Oh, man. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe I am.
But yeah, everybody, as we were saying a minute ago, it's like I think we did a pretty good, pretty thorough breakdown on the Rebel Moon trailer the other night. So if you want to kind of like get our like immediate reactions on it, and we were on a tear on that. We were on a high from that. That was like our very fresh reactions, and it's just impossible not to be blown away by this trailer or this teaser.
Yeah. Hold on. Azteca Aguilar 04 is flirting with extinction here. No, you know it. Fourth 1000, I blame this on you because of the way you troll me. It's spread now. Van Halen sucks with Hagar. Throw up emoji. Can't stand his vocal. Should have just renamed the band. Oh, Azteca, I had such hope for you. You're trolling me. Listen. For what they were under DLR, fine, it's a party band. But if I wanted a band that could actually sing in melody, I wanted 5150 from on is where it's at for me. So, all right, let's see. I liked Mikey and talk with him on Pop Culture Minefield. I didn't like. I've been on Pop Culture Minefield, but when I came on, it was all after that. I've never been on the screen with either one of these gentlemen. Obviously, we know who they are. I know who they are. And like I said, it's just when you break it down on just a human level, my condolences are with him. Even if I did interact with this guy, there's nothing that he could have said to me that would make me not feel the pain of him dying tonight at 60. And like I said, I just hope everybody takes a look at what we're doing here. And when you feel yourself calling somebody a name, when you feel yourself blocking somebody or muting somebody, when you feel yourself putting them in your thumbnail, when you feel yourself understand where we are at with this and what's real and what's not, what's worth it and what's not. Maybe some of my combat veteran buddies that are in here, maybe it's a little bit easier for me because I've been in situations where when I got back from overseas, I promised myself there's just some things I'm just not going to bring to the surface. There's some things I'm not going to. I joke about the heat because I was in 130-degree heat over there, and it's hot over here. It's just a joke. But when push comes to shove, there's a lot of things I would in my daily life and the things I take for granted and fun that I would rather have than not have. And just these beasts, these little silly things. Now, is there anybody out there does not fully understand just how silly whatever you had against Mikey Sutton or any of these other guys? Do you understand just how fucking silly this is in comparison to just getting up in the morning and making it through the day? And I hope it doesn't take anyone else suddenly passing to put that into focus. I think that we should have been in already, but I opening up the show and finding that out 28 seconds before I hit play, that should put it all in perspective. In a perfect world, I would see a different environment going forward, but you know what? We don't live in a perfect world. So, yeah. All right, let's see. Stuff's gonna get canceled. Yeah, Rebel Moon, I'll support this hashtag. You know what? Next time I'm on, I'll support this hashtag. But I'm gonna do hashtag I understand though. I understand. Because it's like, Zack Snyder's gonna save Hollywood. Yeah, it's him and A24.
Yeah, I mean it's
I have to. Sorry. Oh well. Yeah, let's fourth, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that for Patreon. And we're just gonna pick an album and we're gonna pick a movie. I'm gonna let you guys do it. And we're gonna get on a stream where we're just gonna blast it. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Glad you showed up tonight. Let's see. We should push William into what?
I think he means an OnlyFans.
Oh hell no. Listen, I have no shame. But like I said, the threat of you seeing me on OnlyFans would be where I made my money. Yeah, we got to get together. We all got to get together because, like I said, I'm ready. I'm ready for every second I spend on this damn planet to be creative and fun. I'm ready to do things that that sound silly or outlandish. I'm ready to just fucking do them. You know what I mean? I'm ready. If somebody comes to me with an idea that doesn't seem realistic, I'm going to be like, can I do this? Can I put this together? It's going to be like Legos. Do I have this piece that I can put on together with this piece? Let's do it. I'm going to start, like, especially with this platform, because like I said, what do I got to lose? my 225 followers? I'll be all right. We know William is crazy on drugs when he starts listening. Every now and then, like I said, even a blind dog finds a bone. He comes up with a good idea every now and then, when he's not trolling me. Getting banned by William is an honor. Yeah, all right. Disturbed for free. I'm just going through my influence is spreading. Yeah. Oh yeah. And in both ways, you came up with a good idea, but you've destroyed Azteca. Now he's starting to think like that. Yeah, Las Vegas would be great.
Yeah, well, apparently there's been some,
but I still have the patches for that.
Apparently, with the animated show, that and Twilight of the Gods, he was asked about that recently. Apparently, there was some kind of like behind the scenes difficulties with the production wise, but it's just a waiting game.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh, by the way, we're not simulcasting tonight. Hit the like this button, share the stream, share all my stuff. Let's spread our geekdom. If you're having fun, and you think we're having a conversation that you can carry on even without us here, share it. I mean, I want to bring brand new people in. I enjoy the people that are here, but I want different points of view. I mean, I am on this platform, I want to listen. I want to hear other points of view. That's why I make it a point to read most of the comments. And I don't, I try not to time anybody out. I don't ban. I've only had to ban one person, but that was because that person was carrying something into our stream that had nothing to do with us, and he was looking for he was looking for and it was just a pain. But other than that, no, this is format. We can talk about just about anything. Hell, you can talk about country music if you want to. But yeah, we were. Let's see. What my previous paragraph? Let's see. All right, cool. Animated Watchmen looks cool. Yeah, I mean that's gonna be great. But all right. You should use Point Extra Lounge only to direct people here. I thought you weren't streaming tonight. I thought about doing that. I thought about doing like a short stream and then just bridging the gap over to there. But I'd been telling everybody all week that I was coming here, but but like I said, I have to, in order for me to do the type of things that I think will work, I have to see my algorithm on its own, and it's hard to do it because even though I stream on there, other things happen on there. So I don't know where the algorithm is. It going this way because of this demo? I mean, it's different. So I needed to be able to see where I'm at. All right, let's see. Be sure to support. I would have liked, subscribe, follow, and consider supporting him on stream. Stream Labs. Yeah, it's pinned to the. We'll go ahead and put it in here. It's pinned to the top of the chat. I think I don't have to anymore, but I'll do it anyway because I'm low tech. Let's see. Yeah, because we're gonna start doing wrestling pay-per-views here pretty soon. I was gonna do it tomorrow, but I just don't know what my setup is gonna be tomorrow. So here we are. We're almost at the end of our thing. And I'm full of shit, by the way, Brad. I think we're gonna be closer to 2 hours tonight. I'm full of shit.
Well, I could tell once we were getting so deep into the Hollywood Reporter article, and we hadn't even started on the main topics yet. It's like, this is going to run a little bit longer than what he suggested initially.
Yeah, and plus I wanted to, like I said, retract calling the article stupid. It's not stupid. I fundamentally have some issues with it, and I would like to, bring that up. But other than that, I mean, I just, anyway. William Mobdrill's is awesome. Yes, it is. Voodoo falling off the edge of the world. And the dope opener for the album Turn Up the Night. Now that I think about it, William, I can swap out Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Okay, cool. I mean, I would have slapped, Paranoid, but yeah, that's fine. As long as you're putting Mob Rules in there and we're moving one out, then we're good. All right, so you're unbanned.
Yeah, don't test your luck though.
Thoughts on Strangeland soundtrack? I'm not as familiar with it. When was that released? Strangeland. Oh, you know what? I have not seen this movie. This came out in '98. I did not see this. I did not see it. I have not seen it. Wow, I'm gonna need to have cue cards because apparently, when I was having problems reading an article that I had read twice before, I was like, okay, maybe I need to have this read to me. Dee Snider. Oh wow, Elizabeth Pena's in it. How did I miss this? And Dee Snider's in the soundtrack. Oh wow, dude. Okay. I remember some songs off of this. I did not realize that they were from this soundtrack, though. A Secret Place, I remember. That's Megadeth. Anthrax, Piss and Vinegar, I remember this. I remember Okay, I remember Absent. Okay. Sweet Tooth was from that? See, I heard that on late night radio. I did, but they don't tell you. Twisted Sister, of course, he's in there. Okay. Thank you for turning me on to that. I did not know. I have not seen that movie, but I've heard of some of those songs. All right, let's see. Bandos Fools. What kind of shirts are you going to be offering? Stuff like this, like stuff that we get left over from, like this is the last voyage of the Demeter. Because like I said, when I get bunches of them, like for the Flash, I got a ton of them for Shazam. Remember Shazam? I came onto a stream wearing all the shit I had from Shazam. I had tons of it. So, we'll have more than enough. So, and I'm not going to have like a bunch of subscribers yet. So, for the minuscule amount I'll have plenty for you. Or you can like Oppenheimer, things like this, Oppenheimer, and then posters and stuff like that Dune poster you saw. That's a promo. I mean, things like that we'll have in there. And then eventually I'm going to start making my own shirts that you guys can buy off the site too. Once I become that kind of a celebrity. Right now I'm just a loser. All right, Dee Snider. Yep. All right, guys, let's do it. Save me a small demeanor. You know what? You got it. This one's yours, Rhea. This one's yours. Also, you want to know how heavily they promoted Black Adam? Still got several of these left, So, so yeah. But we always get extras, instead of just leaving them pile. Like I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like I had the mask. I mean, little stuff like that. And then when we do digital, releases, like when we get like a bunch of Fandango codes, like for Blade Runner, we got like about 100 of those. For Justice League, we don't remember that movie. We got like 100 of those, and a lot of the locals are going with me to the screening. So when we do the digital codes, I'm going to do that on the Patreon page. So there you go. All I have left are the masks are gone, the little turtle shells are gone. This is all I got left, Jeebus. These are the posters that they gave us to the movie. So, but we had masks and T-shirts and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that, like I said, that I could put through the Patreon page. And, sometimes like on Free Comic Book Day, we could do stuff like that. So, like I said, I think the Patreon thing will be good because, like I said, YouTube is great. But like the idea of Fourth brought up and like, watching movies and stuff like that, to avoid copyright and all that, we can just do it on Patreon. And plus that helps support. Like I said, the money that I get from that would probably, a lot of it is just going to be like, some of it will go to shipping, things like that. But, every bit helps to, like I said, I'm about to embark on a new era of creative with my outreach, so that all helps. All right. Yes, I do. I have Shazam T-shirts. I have Shazam posters. I have Shazam comic books left. All right. Let's see. I had so many. Yeah. William has a closet full of Shazam. Not too much anymore. It's been a while. All right, Brad. Did we cover everything? I think we did.
I think everything we need to get to do Ahsoka, but I haven't. I'm just
okay. Real quick on Ahsoka. I was going to do a spoiler review, and people texted me that are watching tonight haven't finished episode 2 yet.
Which includes me.
Yeah, and there you go. So I'm gonna tell you what I think about Ahsoka. I think it's a fine show. I think it's a compelling show. I am not enjoying it as much as other people because I have zero, and I mean zero for Rebels and in Clone Wars and all that stuff. There's no entertainment value for me in those shows. I tried watching those shows, and that was when I started getting sick of being in this era. And that's another thing that hurts me with Ahsoka. I think Rosario Dawson was made for this role.
Hell yeah.
That the other Jedi, the little blonde, his sidekick, Ray Peterson, rest in peace. Ray Stevenson, I'm sorry, rest in peace, 58 years old. Watching him in this role makes me hurt that he's not here anymore. He is excellent in this role. Like I said, the Jedi sidekick, she's episode 1, she had me. I love her already. Sabine Wren, the girl they got playing her. I mean, I'm buying into the current interpretation of these characters, but I understand, like, they tie back to other things. I don't care about Ezra Bridger. I will care about him from this point going on, but I didn't need to. I don't care. Thrawn, I already cared about Thrawn through other mediums, but I don't. These shows, I mean, I just had no use for that era. I still kind of don't, but it's the Star Trek or Star Wars that's on right now, and the performances. Be honest with you, my disdain for this era of time, being tired of it, notwithstanding, the performances are great. They are just. I mean, she's great. She, her little witchy character is great. The aesthetics are great, and like I said, I just want to get out of this period of time eventually and go, far ahead. I know everybody's like, well, it can't be Star Wars without this and this and that. I'm like, that's like saying it can't be Star Trek without Kirk, and it is. So that's just me. All right, so let's see. Fourth, I think Ahsoka trailer played really flat and emotionless. No crying, laughing, rage, fear. Yeah, and the show is a little bit like that too, but that's more of what the characters are supposed to be. Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's a tough week, man. It's a tough week. Seriously, why is everybody dying? Every time I think I'm coming close, I fall asleep and wake up again. Yeah, it's like, ugh. Fun, dude. I was trying to stay awake. Seeing Ahsoka, not a good sign for the series. Didn't want to have to do this with Mando. Yeah, its pacing is an issue. Its pacing is an issue. It does not. That's one criticism I will give it to it. Besides the fact that I have no ties to Rebel, Clone Wars, anything like that, is its pacing could use a kickstart, especially since they are longer episodes. I think the first episode is 50 something minutes and the second episode is 42 minutes or something like that. So these are longer episodes, longer than their usual 38-minute, whatever, So, but the pacing needs to pick up. And I hope that's, happening in episodes 3, 4, whatever. So, yeah, it was this performances were strong. The performances are, and we need more characters, by the way, because it's been 2 hours in these guys. But the pacing, yeah, you had some issues. Ray was Ray, dude. I watched him, and like I said, we were talking to Dexter. He's been in a lot of stuff that.
And I mentioned to Wayne before the stream. If you guys haven't seen the Accident Man movies with Scott Adkins, he plays a character called Big Ray in those. It's based on this British comic title that it's kind of like an assassin who makes his hits look like accidents. But this movie, but they're black comedies and they're funny as hell, and he's awesome in them and got great chemistry with Scott Adkins. So give those a look if you haven't seen those.
All right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for tonight. I think we covered a lot. I think we covered more than what I thought I was going to cover tonight, but that's fine. We had some unexpected things come up. We had some unexpected deaths coming up, both celebrity and otherwise. So we would be inhumane if we did not at least give those the time of day. But once again, he was great as Punisher, Jeebus. Once again, and I will begin in every stream with this right here. Like I said, don't take for granted being in just decent mental or physical health. This stream and these last 7 or 8 days are living, breathing examples of it. None of it's guaranteed. None of it's guaranteed. And control the things you can control and fix the things you can fix. If you need fixing, your psyche, if you're going through things right now, 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline, 24/7 call, text, chat. I know people have used it. I've recommended it to people who have used it. I've called people. I've called it, and just because like I said, I am going to bring these people on because I want them to spread their word, not just me throwing off this banner. I have never had suicidal tendencies, but damn it, it has touched me in every degree of separation. I mean, being an Army vet, we have it there. I have coworkers that have gone through it. I have people on the stream that have reached out to me with issues, and I've given them this. So it's all around us. It's all around us. And if you're not a professional you're it is not beholden on you to be the person that fixes things. But please, the one thing you can do is get them to someone who can recognize the signs. If you can, you're not an expert, but there are people out there that have gone through this. And like I say every night, these people on this are living proof that there's another end to this, there's another side of this, and they came out on it, and you can too. So, all right. Other than that, I don't think I need to reiterate just how fragile this whole life and living thing is. And when you carry on your conversation, especially in the geekosphere that we're in, I'm not saying have the Grim Reaper hang over every word that you say, but understand the importance of this before you go out and literally destroy people. Because like I said, Mikey Sutton is a prime example. While he was living on this earth, took a lot of heat. Now I'm not inside of that situation to justify whether the heat that he took or gave was justified or not. All I know, it was about topics that are not life and death. Just understand that. All right, where can they find you, Brad?
Everybody can find me on Twitter and Vero, occasionally on Facebook, and just Brad Curran. You can also find my writing on topics like everything we're covering tonight. You can find Screen Rant and Kung Fu Kingdom, and you can find me here on Saturdays.
Cool. And like I said, I put the links in the the link is in the description. The link is also on on our channel as well. The Patreon link is in there. The donation link is there. Not just because I want your $5, but because that's the minimum, the little tier that they said to start with. I think that we could have a lot of creative fun on that thing that we can't do here. There's a lot of freedom on Patreon that we can do. So I look forward to taking this to a level that I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to be constantly worried about getting kicked off of Facebook and shaking every time we do a trailer reaction. One of the only reasons I think we didn't get kicked off the other night is we did ours later after everybody had already disputed it, and Netflix changed the algorithm so that
ridiculous.
It didn't off anymore. So, but yeah, the Patreon thing is I just got it going today, but I am going to add some stuff to it. I am going to start making posts to it. I am going to start giving away T-shirts and stuff. I am going to get T-shirts made. Like I said, I'm open to ideas. Like Fourth came up with probably one of the first ones that we'll do. We'll do movie screenings. Like not everybody has the streaming platforms. I have all streaming platforms. I have Apple, I have Netflix, I have Paramount Plus, I have them all. So not everybody has those. So guess what? On our private, things like that are away from copyrights, we can watch things like that and do watch-alongs and wrestling events. So yeah, if you get a chance, join the Patreon. If you get a chance, make a donation. Like I said, it may just buy me a Frappuccino. And man, my Frappuccinos are kind of pricey, but hey, everything helps. All right, guys, for Brad, for all of my geeks out there, for everybody living and dead, you are on my mind tonight. And in ways that this week has really shown me are not insignificant. All right, guys, take care of each other, and one day at a time.